The Higgledy Piggledy Podcast.
I was doing that just to test whether it was on the right setting, but I kind of just like that cold open. No, just
The Higgledy Podcast.
just a little bit of
The
a,
Higgledy Piggledy Podcast.
you know?
Let's do
Shut
it.
the cyber fuck up, you gonk, and listen to the Higgledy Piggledy Podcast.
Get fucked.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to the podcast. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Favoriting's not a thing, so I've been told. Share?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking comment.
Yeah, share. Share is a good one. I feel like not many people say share, but I feel like more people should.
Just send this video directly to your elderly grandmother, particularly if she's in an old people's home. Send it to her. She's gonna fucking love it.
Or if you know that she's going to hate it and you want to off her, also do that.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, I kind of realized as I was saying it, but I was midway through, so I just didn't stop.
You know, it's the wonderful thing that children develop maybe around the age of like 9 or 10, where they just think before they say things.
I mean, I thought, I just didn't have the realization until midway through. It's like going through an amber light, you know? You're already going too fast. If you slam on the brakes, it's not going to go well.
Okay. Yeah, hey, welcome to the podcast. That was a weird fucking opening, wasn't it? I blame
Yes.
Alex entirely.
Fine. I'm fine with this.
Let's
It's my niche.
let's just jump straight into it. So we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. To be honest with you, there's almost enough stuff that we might not be able to talk about both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Stranger Things. I don't know. I might have to play it by ear a little bit because there's a decent chunk of stuff. There's actually loads of stuff that I haven't posted in topics because I didn't want to talk about it all. But there's just been like not E3. I haven't really been paying attention. E3's not on this year, but instead we've had like Summer Games Fest, I think it was called, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
It was basically E3 but not E3, and they announced a bunch of games and showed a bunch of games up and stuff, but I don't want to talk about all of it because otherwise that will be the very early prototype for this entire podcast was years ago when we did coverage of E3 and we got to like 6 hours or something ridiculous and we still hadn't gotten through
Yes.
like the second day of E3. So
I mean, most of that was literally just talking about the Quiet Man, so...
I really wish we could dig up that footage. I mean, I might have the audio, but no footage to go with it. I might have the audio still. But Tommy also has... Also, you called it The Quiet Place. It's not The Quiet Place. It's The Quiet Man.
I thought it said the Quiet Man.
I thought you said The Quiet Place, and then clocked
Oh, well-
10 seconds later. Maybe I'm wrong, because I didn't twig it when you said it. But
Yeah, I mean, if I was wrong as well, like, I meant the Quiet Man, but yeah, like,
Or
I guess we're seeing...
I just called you out for nothing, because I'm
Yeah,
fucking insane. I don't fucking know.
I guess we'll see when it's posted or in editing, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, Tommy actually owns a copy of The Quiet Man, which he won in a competition, and he still hasn't played it. So
I think I might own a copy as well, because I think he might have bought it for me. But can't be sure. Let me have a look in my Steam inventory. Will it be under The Quiet Man? Oh, I do indeed own a copy of it.
I feel sorry for you.
Never been played.
Good.
7 trading cards still left to collect.
But yeah, so we're not going to cover everything that's been announced. Maybe we'll cover some other stuff in future episodes of this stuff that we want to come back to. There is one particular one that I want to talk about, but we'll get to it. But first of all, I want to talk about Prey. I want to talk about Prey because Prey, not the game. I know that's confusing going from talking about game announcements to then talking about a thing called Prey. But Prey the movie, which is a prequel to Predator, which we briefly talked about ages ago on the podcast when they first announced it and showed a poster to it. I was like, oh, cool. It's basically Predator, but set during, I believe, the American Civil War. Maybe it had flintlock rifles at one point in the trailer. Anyways, it focuses on some Native Americans. I'm not sure which tribe of Native Americans, but focuses on some Native Americans who are being hunted by a predator. And that sounded like a really cool premise when they announced it, and the poster looked cool. I watched the trailer. I genuinely think I'm actually interested in the Predator franchise again for the first time in a long time.
I haven't seen the trailer, but just from the last few years, I just haven't really been interested in like Aliens or Predator or really just anything to do with that. Like I really enjoyed that type of like movie when I was younger, when my dad first introduced them to me and everything. But now I think about watching them, and I just immediately get a sense of I really just don't think I'll enjoy them. Like, I mean, maybe I should just give them a go at one point and just see, because I really enjoy the concepts of them, but it's the same thing with most like horror sort of thriller type movies. I just find them all kind of samey, and I just don't really like the format mostly. But I mean, you know, I could try them again, and I could really like them. I'm just kind of making like assumptions.
I just think that Predator as a franchise, Predator 1 is fucking great. Basically, the rest of them are kind of trash. Varying degrees of trash, because there is a... And that might be controversial, because some people I know love Predator 2. But I think Predator 1 is genuinely great, and then all the others are varying degrees of trash, except for Predators, which was like the third or fourth. It was the one with... I can't remember if the actor's name was Jason Brody, or he just played a character called Jason Brody. I feel like the character was... It was fair. Shane Black directed it. No, he did the most. I don't fucking remember anymore. There's too many of these fucking films. I don't remember which. It was the one that came out in the 2000s, but not the most recent one that came out in the 2000s, which I think actually now was the Shane Black one, which was awful, which is a shame because Shane Black's usually a great director. The point is, that one, where like one guy has a fucking katana fight with a predator, that was pretty okay. Like, that was like solid B. And then everything else has kind of been varying degrees of trash. But this looks interesting to me, and I like the basic premise of, we already have it established that the predators, as a species, have been kind of hunting around the galaxy for thousands of years at this point, and that's what they do. So why is it always going to be modern day or sci-fi? Just set it in the past, and already you've got a slightly interesting twist on it, which is that these people don't have machine guns. Not that the machine guns have ever really been that helpful against the predators, but still, it's just an interesting premise to play around with that, I think. And as I say, watching the trailer, I was like, I quite like the look of this. It's also the trailer says it's, if you're watching it in most places, it probably says it's coming out on Hulu, which is an American streaming service. Hulu's not available outside of North America. It's coming out on Disney Plus in the UK, because it's Disney owns a majority share in Hulu, and it's 20th Century Fox, basically. So Hulu for America, but since there is no Hulu equivalent in the UK, they're just releasing on Disney Plus, which is pretty cool. So we're gonna just get it anyways. A lot of people are calling for it to be released in cinemas, and honestly, after the trailer, I'm like, I would watch that in cinemas. I'd happily go see that in the cinema. So yeah, I think it looks good.
I think another thing for me, especially with Predator, I mean, yeah, I'm specifically talking about Predator here, is it started with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's been in loads of, classic films, right? But I still just cannot think of him in any other way than he's a B-lister, Like, he's just kind of one of those, like, shitty actors, like, and most of his movies are just really funny because he's kind of bad in just all of them. Like, obviously not as bad as when he was in Hercules, but like, or it was called something else, wasn't it? I can't remember, but
didn't he play Conan? Are you thinking of Conan the Barbarian?
No. Like he played Hercules in like a very old film. I think it was like his first acting gig or something, and he is god awful in it. God's
Well,
awful.
the film is called Hercules in New York.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible. Honestly, like I've watched a few videos, just like the commentary type videos, just watching it, and it's so bad. His acting is maybe the worst acting I've ever seen in my life, and he's improved obviously drastically since then.
I'm gonna have to disagree with that without knowing any of the films you've seen, just on the premise that you've surely seen that scene, which I think is also from Hercules, but it's a Hercules TV show with the disappointed. Because that's the actor reading a stage direction, and it got into the fucking cut. And it's awful. Like, the way he does it is still awful. So,
I mean, maybe you'll have to see for yourselves. But like, and that goes for you as well, Pete. I think you'd get a kick out of it anyway. But it is honestly really bad. And knowing kind of just how not great he was in the beginning, every film I see him in, I'm like, oh, he's never really that good. And it's so strange to me that, the Predator franchise picked up and, it crossed over with Aliens and everything, and now they have like all this history and like all these films that came after and now before. To think it all started with fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's so weird to me.
fun fact, it doesn't actually feature Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
What one?
Hercules in New York. It stars Arnold Strong, because apparently that was his original billing name.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
And you can buy the original poster with it being billed as Arnold Strong for £401.
Just why? Why would anyone buy that?
Because it's stupendous, it's tremendous, it's fun. Which is what the poster says.
Oh, it's so bad. So fucking bad. But yeah, I feel like I'm just biased towards anything that has him in. Like, unless it is inherently meant to be stupid. Even going back and watching Terminator, I'm still like, I can't believe Terminator starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I like Terminator. I really like Terminator.
What's that film? Is it The Last Action Hero or something? The Last Action Movie? That's a pretty...
Yeah, The Last Action Hero,
That's a pretty good movie with him in it, because it plays very much into him. So...
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think most of his movies do. But then, I like Kindergarten Cop. I love that film. I think that's brilliant. But when he's in other things like Predator and Terminator and stuff, it's such a big difference for me that I just can't help but feel like...
I think it's worth bearing in mind that the original Predator is kind of made like a crappy and ridiculous B-movie action flick. It's not supposed to be... It's not supposed to be self-serious.
Weird to me that... I know, that's why it's so weird to me that, like, moving forward, all of the movies got like really intense.
It's because around about the same time Alien was coming out, and Alien was super successful, and then Aliens came out, which was basically what if we did Alien but made it a bit more Predator-esque, and that was massively successful, and then people just tried to replicate that formula with the Predator franchise. And I'm totally fine with them doing it, but as I say, most of them don't deliver on it. To be clear, most of the Alien franchise also doesn't deliver on... Alien is great, Aliens is great, Alien 3 has some redeeming qualities. Alien 4 we don't talk about. Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Those two have good soundtracks. They look pretty. I genuinely like some of the stuff that Prometheus and Covenant are doing. I just don't think they should be doing it in the Alien franchise. So...
Yeah, I liked Alien versus Predator as well. but I'm a sucker for a crossover, so I mean, it was doomed.
Alien versus Predator is fine for what it is. If you think of it as just, it's not. I don't think it ever tried to be canon. Maybe it did. I mean, it has Wayland Yutani in it, but like, it's not really ever been considered canon, and it's fine as just like an almost what if scenario of like, what if these two crossed over? It's fine as that, but yeah, if you try and consider it a serious entry in either franchise, it doesn't live up to either franchise. Hold up. Yeah,
no.
But yeah, as I say, I think Prey looks decent. Maybe it's just a very good trailer, but I like the premise. I like what I saw in the trailer. Yeah, there's a very cool bit where she's like trying to prove that she's a good hunter, so she's hunting a grizzly bear. Or I don't know what type of bear. I'm gonna go with grizzly bear, but it might be a brown bear. I mean, it is brown, but it's a bear. Okay, she's hunting a bear, and
you know what bears beats?
Battlestar Galactica.
Yep.
And then she fucks up. She basically hits it with an arrow, and it fucking rages and charges at her, and she runs away, and she like hides inside a dam, like a beaver dam, basically. And then the bear is like trying to tear it down, trying to get at her, and then it suddenly just gets like its head blasted off and then thrown across the river, and you don't see what did it, and that's like the intro in the trailer to her meeting the predator, is just it invisibly hunting a bear and saving her life inadvertently. And I was like, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, that does sound.
But yeah, I mean, if it's crap, whatever. But I like the look of it. Joker 2.
Why?
So they've announced a sequel to the Joker. It's called Joker from Under the Cork Tree.
Yes, that is indeed Joker 2.
Sorry, no, I got the title wrong. It's Joker Infinity on High.
Joker Endgame.
I'm not sure if you're picking up on the joke that I'm running with.
No.
Okay. I'm doing Fall Out Boy albums because one of their albums is called Folie Deux.
I did not know that. I knew Infinity on High, but I didn't know Folie Deux.
It was their last album before they went on hiatus, and then came back with Joker Save Rock and Roll. Also, if anyone's gonna put it in the comments, yes, I know that they did stuff before From Under the Cork Tree, but I didn't think that Alex would know anything before From Under the Cork Tree, so I went with From Under the Cork Tree. Yes, I know about Take This to Your Grave.
I'm very selective with my music. Like, I listen to a lot of songs, and like I'll just kind of pick and choose. Like, I'll just stick a bunch of music on, and then I'll pick and choose songs, but I will never learn album names. I've never done it.
Have you never listened? Have you never just sat down, not done anything, and just listened to an album in full?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
But I immediately forget. No. I do that, but then like I'm usually pretty good with like names of people, except for any time I'm on the podcast for some reason.
Who plays Joker?
Shaquin Phoenix.
Well done, mate.
But yeah, album names I've never been good with.
Fair.
Never. I can't. It really bugs me as well, because like I've had people ask me before, you know, what my favorite album of an artist is, and I literally just have to say I don't know. And I always feel like a fake fan, and I'm like, I promise I listen to their music. I just can't remember the names. Same with band members as well. I can never remember band members for some reason.
I think that's a little bit more common, because a lot of bands, whether it's the band doing it or the label doing it or whatever, just kind of push the frontman. And so you maybe know the frontman's name, but I can't tell you the majority of drummers or bassists in bands. Fall Out Boy, let's try it. Patrick Stump is the lead singer and rhythm guitarist.
I know he's the lead singer, but I don't know about instrument.
He's either rhythm or lead guitar, but I think he's rhythm. Pete Wentz is the bassist and backing vocals. And then I want to say there's a guy called Colin, who's the lead guitarist.
I don't think there's a Colin, no.
I'm pretty sure there's a Colin.
I'm pretty sure there's a Joe.
So we'll go with Joe as the drummer then. I reckon it's Colin's the... Do you want me to look it up? I used to know all
Yeah.
of them. I also
I used to know too.
I used to also know every single one of the songs on their first 4 albums on bass guitar. You were right about Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Troman. And I guess he was the drummer, right? He's the lead guitar.
Oh.
But there is not a Colin.
No, I didn't think there was a Colin. Oh, don't tell me the last guy. I feel like I can get it. I feel like his surname is Ham or something.
It begins with H. It's not Ham, though.
Oh, fuck. So it's...
Oh my god, dude. That is... You definitely did not know that. You absolutely did not know that. Back in 2002, before they'd even released their first album, they did have a different rhythm guitarist called Brandon Ham.
Oh, shit. That's amazing. So it's Joe, Patrick, Pete, and...
Now that I've seen it, I'm like, of course it's that guy, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna get it.
I'm gonna give you one clue then, and then we're actually gonna talk about Joker Folie Do.
Yeah.
Toy Story.
Waste. No, I can't.
Andy.
Andy, fuck.
Andy Hurley.
Yeah. Bugger.
Anyways,
Oh, well.
yeah, so they're making a Joker 2.
Yeah. I don't really know why. But, well, because it was successful, probably. That's probably why. But, I mean...
It's probably that, and also when Warner Brother, whatever they're called, it's not... They had, like, a longer name than just Warner Brothers, but they, like, recently took over a lot of stuff, including DC. Even though I thought that DC was already owned by Warner Brothers, but now it's like... I don't fucking know. Anyways, the head of that company was like, we need to focus on more movies like The Joker. And then, like, 3 months later, The Joker 2 gets announced. So, it's probably specifically that guy going, I want more of this thing that did well. And then Todd Phillips being like, yeah, okay, here you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, really, on it's okay, but I didn't really like it. I literally, maybe the last 20 minutes was decent, but the rest of the movie, I was so bored. And I, like, regardless of my own biases towards it, I feel like them making a sequel to it is...
It's like making the thing that's weird is that, like, they instead it was inspired by things like Taxi Driver. Can you imagine Taxi Driver getting a sequel?
Yeah.
God, there's probably is a Taxi Driver 2, isn't there? It's probably like a made-for-TV movie. Oh, God.
Taxi Driver, Dolia Foo.
Okay, God, that scared me. Taxi Driver officially announced his return, and this was like from 5 days ago, and I was like, don't you fucking tell me that they've announced a Taxi Driver 2. Apparently there's a TV show called Taxi Driver now.
But I feel like it's just counterproductive, really, because the reason that a lot of people liked the Joker, from my understanding at least, was the fact that it blended reality with, like, illusion, you know? Or disillusion, I guess, in the Joker's case. And the way the movie left off, I understand that for a lot of people that was a good ending, because you're kind of up in the air about whether or not it happened or if it didn't. And I feel like making a sequel just kind of ruins that ending.
I mean, I don't even have strong opinions about any of that. I just think that the Joker was fine. Like, I wasn't bored during it. I just think it's a deeply problematic film that I'm totally fine with it not getting a sequel. To me, it gets far too close to glorifying some of the stuff that happens in that film as a result of Arthur Fleck's mental illness. And things like when he shoots Murray, spoilers alert, it's not treated as some great tragedy or awful moment. I mean, in a way it is because of people's reactions, but the filmmaking almost makes you feel like you agree with Arthur, or at least that's the intent that I felt that the filmmaker was going for, is that you're supposed to be on Arthur's side, and that's deeply problematic at that point. And okay, you could go, well, it's a film from the villain's perspective, fine, but like, we should condemn villains, even if they are the protagonist of the story. You should condemn them, because unfortunately, we have had instances where people have tried to replicate characters like this, including the Joker. So, you know, I feel like it's a little bit irresponsible to just glorify it in a way. Funnily enough, I was watching, I don't know if you've ever seen it before, The Kill Count by Dead Meat on YouTube. Basically, it's a series that this channel does where they do a kill count for various horror movies. So, like, they literally like explain some of the backstory of how it was made and who worked on it and everything, and who did the makeup and prosthetics and all that. So it's quite like in lore of like what was going on in the film, which is quite cool. But it also literally just talks you through the kills, and there's like then gives you some stats of like, this is how many kills this horror movie had per minute and whatever. So if you vaguely like horror movies, it's a fun series to watch occasionally. And they were doing one about a film called, no, can't remember the name of the film, but it featured Joe Keery from Stranger Things as a serial killer.
Oh, Spree?
Spree, yes, thank you. And one of the things that the director was quoted as saying, which they mentioned in this video, is that they made Joe Keery's character in that film so incredibly unlikable and just like sweaty and gross and pathetic, so that no one would possibly ever want to emulate him. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of necessary when you've got imbeciles trying to emulate these sorts of people. I guess the downside is you potentially see a sweaty, pathetic person and see yourself in them, and maybe it doesn't work that way, but I don't know. But
well, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that, actually, because the only reason I know the name of the movie is because obviously I watched Stranger Things, been a bit on, or you know, I've been on a bit of a
Joe Keery man crush. Yeah, got that.
Interview binge of just all the cast, and also slight Joe Keery man crush. But I was watching his interview with Ali Plum yesterday.
Ali Plum is such a fucking great interview. Well.
Yeah, he's incredible. Like, you can just tell that every single person he interviews is just really comfortable with him. It's incredible. But yeah, I was watching that interview, and he was actually talking about Spree. It's probably from, you know, a while ago now when it was first out, but you know, Joe was saying, well, they were kind of chatting about the character and how, you know, for the first 45 minutes of the film or whatever, you kind of like sympathize with this guy because, you know, all he really wants is like media attention. And I feel like that is relevant to a lot of people these days. You know, there is a lot of people clout chasing, etc. And so a lot of people can relate to that. But then the last 45 minutes, he just turns and is just absolutely disgusting, basically. I'm really trying to focus on what I'm saying, but that face is really fucking
Sorry, I was just emulating what you were talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting, actually, because I feel like that is a good, that is kind of like a good character study, basically, you know, like of actually showing something relevant to today's society and then completely flipping it on its head and kind of like showing the horrors of that side of thing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas with the Joker, as you were saying, it gets borderline where you are just meant to sympathize with him and feel like he is in the right. And regardless of like how it does glorify violence and I guess sticking it to society, I also just don't think it's the Joker, really. Like, I feel like it is just straying very far away from who the Joker actually is. Because part of the Joker's, you know, appeal really is that nobody really sides with him or, sympathizes with him. He's a great villain because he is just a villain. Like, he is...
I saw a great tweet recently about the Joker, which is that he's not a mentally ill serial killer. He's the physical embodiment of chaos.
Yes.
And I get that some of the more grounded, more realistic takes on the Batman universe and such do want to do realistic, grounded takes on characters. But even the Nolan trilogy, which is largely grounded and realistic, the Joker isn't really... we don't really delve into his mental health other than he's fucking insane. He is just an embodiment of chaos. And I think that film, as much as that take on Joker is very particular for that film, it does a great job of what's the word I'm looking for? Including and kind of enriching that element of the character.
I mean, the Joker is insane the same way that Batman is sane.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it either way, really. That's what makes them complete opposites and also one and the same. You have that sort of
duality.
Yeah, duality. And I mean, that's one of my main concerns with the Joker film before it even released. I was thinking, well, it doesn't have Batman in, and you're also exploring his origin story and whatever. And okay, there are a lot of arguments in a lot of cases like this for, it's a different take on the character. But my argument is when you start straying too far away from what the actual base character's sort of morality and personality and everything is, it is no longer that character. Because how can it be? If you can just replace him with any other guy,
with the protagonist of Taxi Driver.
Yeah, if exactly, if you just made that movie and just called him something totally different and didn't have Thomas Wayne in it, I wouldn't know the difference. Mm-hmm. It would be the same exact movie, and I wouldn't then be thinking to myself, they've just ruined my favorite character, basically. Because I guess ruined is a strong word, but it felt like that to me. It felt like I wasn't watching the Joker. Mm. And I don't see why it needs a sequel anyway, because now they're just going to make it worse, I feel. If they just keep sort of digging deeper and deeper, unless they just suddenly think, we're making a sequel, now let's throw Batman into the mix. In which case, I may just... I may like it a bit more. But as it stands, it isn't the Joker to me. It is just... It's almost like a really well-made fan fiction. In my mind, at least.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think the other thing that I'm a little bit worried about, because it happened with Suicide Squad, is all the people being like, I want a relationship like Joker and Harley. No, you fucking don't. They are literally the embodiment of toxic relationships. You should not want, in any genuine part of you, to want what they have. But people did genuinely say, I want what they have. And it wasn't sarcasm. It wasn't irony.
People still genuinely say that.
Even after the Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, not that I've actually seen Birds of Prey, but they make it very clear that no, it wasn't a good relationship, and yeah, a lot of it is about Harley kind of saying "fuck you" to the Joker. So,
I mean, I hate the idea of gatekeeping and stuff, and I don't want to do it. And this is probably gonna come across as very gatekeepy of me, but whenever I see someone say that, it just makes me feel like, well, you clearly aren't an actual fan of these characters, because otherwise you would understand what their relationship is and why it is fucking terrible and why you wouldn't want that. And it just...
But the thing is with superhero fans is that I think fandoms of superhero media have expanded far beyond nerds of the comic books. You've now got nerds of the cartoons, nerds of the video games, and nerds of the movies and TV shows and whatever. And from 2016's Suicide Squad, I can forgive someone not realizing. I mean, it is still toxic in that film, but it's nowhere near as obvious as it should have been. And again, this comes down to, if you're dealing with a character like that, you should handle it with some care, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
But yeah, I don't care about Joker 2 unless they pull something really awesome out their ass, but I really just don't think that's going to happen.
I was trying to come up with a Fall Out Boy Folie do joke, but like, I hope he joins the disloyal order of water buffaloes. There we go. I did it. This one's going to be pretty quick. On August 4th, hitting YouTube is a 5-part series called Arcane Bridging the Rift, which is about, basically sounds like it's going to be a documentary behind the scenes of how they made Arcane. Sounds cool. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for that.
Thoroughly enjoyed Arcane. I've wanted to know more about how they did some of the stuff that they did, and Corridor Cruise covered a little bit of it, but yeah, I am very much down for that. Also, let us know about Arcane Season 2, please, because I'm desperate.
I've actually been feeling the itch to go back and rewatch it again. But...
Mate, I've felt the itch since I finished it.
I've just got so much other shit I need to watch that I can't justify rewatching another series.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. I've also been tempted to rewatch The Boys Season 1 and Season 2 because I'm really we'll get to it later, but I'm really enjoying Season 3. But there are definitely some things I'm like, oh, I didn't fully, like, it's coming back to me now that I'm watching it, sort of thing, but I didn't remember that exact thing happened. So yeah, part of me is like, oh.
I managed to watch 1.5 seasons before it came out because I just got swamped with other things, but it was enough of a recap for me and I enjoyed my time. So
yeah. Black Adam has had its first trailer drop.
I'm actually really excited for this. I think a lot of the costumes look great, honestly. Like when I saw Atom Smasher running, I was like, ooh. And also I think Pierce Brosnan is the best cast for Dr. Fate. I think that's awesome.
Pretty good. I love Atom Smasher is also just blue Deadpool.
I'm not quite sure I see that, but sure.
It's something that lots of people on the internet have been saying, and he has a similar kind of design to the eye pieces where there's like stitching around them, but other than that, it's not anything like it. So.
Yeah. The only thing that I think is a shame is that The Rock still just has his normal accent. I mean, I guess it could have come across a bit insensitive if he was, putting on sort of like a... I mean, I don't even know where Kahndaq is really meant to be. I'm pretty sure it changed locations at some point. But at the same time, it's a little bit immersion breaking, seeing this like centuries old being just have like a normal sort of American accent. It's very weird, but I mean, overall, I think it looks pretty good. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, it looks like a good fun time. What was I gonna say? Yeah, no, I like the look of Dr. Fate. I like the look of Atom Smasher. I like the look of Hawkman. That's possibly my favorite looking Hawk. Hawkman? It is Hawkman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, for some reason I was then going Hawkeye, but then I think I was just thinking of Hawkeye from Marvel. I was second guessing myself. Anyways, yeah, I think that's my favorite look of Hawkman. It's weird though because I keep on thinking he looks like another actor. I can't think of what actor he looks like, but I'm like, I've seen that actor before, and then I looked over and went, I haven't seen that actor before, but so yeah, but no, look, it looks like a fun time. That was what I was going to say. I think the other shame is that they didn't just like give him his hairstyle from the comic books, because I would love to see Dwayne Johnson with that hairstyle.
Yeah, that would have been really funny, to be fair, but
they should do a CGI cut where they just like CGI the hair on, like they CGI'd out Superman's mustache.
I just don't think he has the head shape for it.
They just like do it as like a Lego hairpiece, so it's just like one plastic solid thing CGI'd in his head the whole time.
I'm pretty sure Black Adam also is meant to have like pointy ears. Or am I thinking of Namor?
I think you're thinking of Namor because they have very similar looking faces, but I don't remember Black Adam having pointy ears. The one thing I will say, and this is not necessarily criticism of Black Adam or Shazam, is I don't see this Black Adam and that Shazam fighting anytime soon. Like they feel like they're in two completely different versions of the DC universe. But if they make it happen at some point, I'm down for it. But it's just like, yeah, there's like the visual stylings of them. One of them's like very clean and kind of, and the other one's DC dark gloom and grime.
I really hope they're building up to it. Even if it isn't soon, I hope they're building up to it, because I'm pretty sure it's either in the trailer or rumors that Superman is gonna return to fight Black Adam,
but it will be just below the head cut off.
Yeah, probably.
And he'll be carrying a cafeteria tray.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, honestly, if they did that as like a post-credit scene as like the intro, that they are definitely in the same, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, that would be really fun. I would enjoy that. But if he actually is in it and he's like the person to fight Black Adam, why? Just have him fight Shazam. Like, there's no need to bring Superman back to fight Black Adam. There just isn't. You know, Shazam and Black Adam, one and the same. I mean, Black Adam is literally meant to have Shazam's powers. He clearly doesn't in this film, which is fine. I don't really care about that. But that was one of the reasons that, you know, people were saying, oh, that's why he should fight Superman, because he has like the same powers as Superman. And I was like,
he just has super strength and flight. That's all we've seen so far, right?
And lightning.
Yeah, which is a Shazam power.
Exactly. So I'm like, he doesn't really, does he? Because he's meant to have Shazam's powers. So like,
yeah,
why would you want him to fight Superman? But you know, we'll see. Another thing I did like in the trailer though was that they completely stuck it to the people that were complaining that he was gonna kill.
He does kill in the trailer, right?
Yep. But a lot of people were complaining, like, when, you know, but before all the trailers and everything, people were complaining, saying, like, he's meant to be a hero, like, he shouldn't be killing people and whatever. And, well, exactly, that was my reaction. I was like, well, one, he's mainly a villain.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, he is, like, a bit of an anti-hero at times, because, like, his reasoning behind what he did in the first place was out of, you know, caring for his people and wanting what was best in his mind. But like, no, he's meant to be a villain, and people are like, oh, he shouldn't be killing if he's like the hero of this film or whatever. And I just thought, well, that's not the character. If you want to watch that, just go and watch Shazam, because you know that's the whole point of it, is that he is kind of an anti-hero, but ultimately he becomes a villain because of just the extremes he goes to.
He is as much a hero as Ra's al Ghul is a hero.
Yeah, pretty much. Or the same way that Lex Luthor is a hero.
Well, hold on now. Lex Luthor getting us next day delivery on all of our packages.
He is a hero. He's a national treasure.
Hold on now. Lex Luthor doesn't pay his taxes.
Oh,
Hero.
still a hero.
If you can't tell, I may be alluding to a real life person who's also bald and a billionaire and is basically real life Lex Luthor. And I'm not talking about Elon Musk.
Except, I'm assuming you're talking about Jeffrey Bezos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except he's yet to come out and say that he's preparing for some sort of alien invasion.
No,
Unless he has, and I've just missed it.
No, that's much more of an Elon Musk sort of vibe. God, I not to rate billionaires because they're both awful, but there's like credit where credit's due to Jeffrey Bezos. He could be worse. He could be Elon Musk.
Yeah, but yeah, there was a lot of complaints about it and everything, and then in the trailer, Hawkman literally says to Black Adam, "Heroes don't kill," and Black Adam just responds,
"I do."
Well, I do.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that. I was like, yeah, just get fucked. Just go and watch something else then,
I think there's one criticism I have from the trailer is that we didn't see enough Dr. Fate doing Dr. Fate things, but he did cool narration, so I'll take it.
I think they're probably like excluding that because I'm sure we're gonna see some awesome shit from him in the movie.
Yeah, there is a brief shot that looks very kind of Doctor Strange-esque as well, which is possibly another reason why they're not showing it, is they don't want to draw those comparisons just yet, because the film's still a ways out. Doctor Strange just came out. Like, give it a little bit of buffer room. They're not the same character, but like there will be comparisons from like the trippy visuals, so that might be part of it as well, potentially. So
I just want to see a huge Ancon screen.
There.
That's all I want from Doctor Fate.
Okay, if we're not talking about that yet, let's talk about Midnight Suns. Did you watch the trailer?
I did. 2 or 3 times.
Looks good.
It's looking pretty good.
I continue to like the concept of X-Men, not X-Men, XCOM meets Marvel. Like, that sounds cool to me. And some intros of some new characters and some new villains. A little bit confused about one thing. So the basic premise of the trailer is it shows Venom getting turned into a monster, and then at the end you see Hulk's been turned into a monster, working for the villains. We also see Spider-Man is a new hero that we can play as. That's cool. He hadn't been announced beforehand. Now, also, it looks like Scarlet Witch is a new character that you can have on your team. Because there's like a shot of her like floating down the background with like a team-up shot. Or maybe she's just an NPC who you can't actually have on your team. Because you also see her, or what looks like her, as one of the villains later on in the trailer. And that makes me wonder, can you potentially lose characters and have them get turned into villains?
That would be really fucking cool.
Yeah, like XCOM style of like you lose a teammate and they're dead forever, but instead of that they come back as a fucking villain for you to fight. That would be interesting.
It's interesting you say that, actually, because when I was watching the trailer for like the second time, it kind of dawned on me like, oh, so the heroes are getting changed into these creatures and such.
Sounds awfully familiar to a certain mobile game I have.
But what if you can also like
turn them back,
save them? Yeah, and then add them to your roster.
Yeah, that's interesting. They haven't said this is all speculation from a CGI trailer, just to confirm. But
yeah, total speculation. But another thing that slightly confused me was why Spider-Man and not Punisher? Give me Punisher. I've had enough of fucking Spider-Man. Just give me my boy. He deserves to be there with his bros, Ghost Rider and Blade.
I'm the Punisher, baby.
But Yeah,
I mean, look, they've announced new characters before the game even came out. I was pretty happy with the roster as we had it, although I was confused why Iron Man and Cap were there, because both of them aren't really... Both of them were in the original trailer, right? Or was it just Iron Man?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was definitely...
Pretty sure Cap, so.
It was definitely Iron Man. I'm like 90% sure Cap. And I was like, why are both of you here? Like, neither of you are Midnight Suns traditionally, and it's just because you're popular characters from Marvel. So the fact that they're adding in more characters still, including ones that aren't traditionally Midnight Suns, but still, it means that maybe we'll get some DLC characters down the line, or they'll just add more characters in before the game gets announced, gets released fully. So, yeah, there might be hope.
I fucking hope they add Punisher. Honestly, that's literally the only thing so far that's kind of putting me off the game.
Did you feel the same way when Insomniac Spider-Man came out? You're like, don't get to play as Punisher in this game. I'm not sure it's for me.
I mean, I would very much like a new Punisher game. I think that would be pretty cool, but no, the Insomniac games can stay. They're good.
You know what I occasionally forget and then remember suddenly is Insomniac is not just making Spider-Man 2, they're also making a Wolverine game.
Yep.
And it's just like every now and again I'll remember that suddenly and be like, I'm excited for that.
You see, I like until you just mentioned it, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
like
because it was such like a minor teaser from like last year, I want to say, at E3. They just threw it in there, and it's like 30 seconds long, and it's just him at a bar, and his claws are out, and that's it. But like, they're doing it, so
yeah. I think actually, like all jokes aside about the Punisher, one thing that I am still a little bit dubious of in this game is like the card mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a very weird mix to me, and I kind of would have preferred if it was just more like XCOM. But I mean, I guess we'll see how it all plays out, because it could be really good. But...
I like the concept of it, but yeah, I'd be lying if I'm not like a little bit dubious about how it's actually going to play. But I like the concept, so
yeah. But yeah, overall, I am much excited.
Cool. I don't know if you care about this at all, because I don't think you've played either of The Last of Us.
Nope, I have not and do not, but it's
you have not and you do.
like...
You have not and you do not. Do not what?
I have not played the games, and I do not care.
Oh, it confused me because I said care and then played, and then you did played, and then
yeah.
Okay. So there was an article recently published on the PlayStation blog about the growing future of The Last of Us off of the back of some announcements that they made. So The Last of Us Part 1, as it's now officially being dubbed, because it was just The Last of Us before then, is getting re-released for PS5. It's being, as they claim, rebuilt from the ground up, which I'm a little bit skeptical of that. Maybe they're telling the truth, but it looks much more like it's just remastered textures and updated character models. Then again, the lighting is completely different, so maybe it is completely built up from the ground up again. That's being re-released for PS5, and people are criticizing that because they re-released it for PS4 when PS4 came out. Like a year after the game came out, they remastered it for PS4. So like, why are we getting it remastered again or remade again? And I get that, but you know, it's going to sell like hotcakes, so that's why they're doing it. I'll say the only gripe I have with the visuals of it is that they've claimed that like it's going to be better because it's closer to the performance capture of the actual actors, which is fine, but it, objectively speaking, everything looks better. It looks more photoreal in the remake, and likewise in Part 2, that looks more photoreal than Part 1. But it's very jarring to look at the comparison shots between the two and go, I prefer the visuals of the original game because they just had more artistry to it with like prettier sunsets and that sort of thing. And it just feels a little bit more flat and a little bit more like photoreal, but in a worse way. And I did see someone go, well, one of the things that actually makes The Last of Us is original visuals work quite nicely in retrospect is that that's a story about hope. And so it's like got quite pretty colours and such like. And then Part 2 is much more photoreal and less pretty in that sense, although it's still a gorgeous game to look at. but that's then kind of devoid of hope for most of the game, so that kind of makes sense. So, mixed bag on that, ultimately. But if it's got the gameplay of Part 2, when I eventually get a PS5, I might buy it, because I love the first game anyways, and it still holds up. But if it's got the gameplay of 2, then great. They also announced that they are developing it for PC, so it will release on PS5 first, and then they will release it later down the line on PC, which is also cool, because that means that more people will be able to play it. And it's, regardless of any of the controversy that Part 2 has, I love Part 2, I adore it to bits, but some people really hate Part 2. Pretty much everyone who's played Part 1 universally loves Part 1, so yeah, you know, it coming to PC, that sounds cool. And it's a continuation of PlayStation games coming to PC, so that's also cool. They also announced that the TV show has wrapped shooting and is going to release in 2023, I believe. So that's cool. They showed a photo. That's cool. They also confirmed that Troy Baker, who played Joel, and Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in the games, will appear in substantial roles, I think was the term they used in the TV show, which is interesting. Obviously, not as Joel and Ellie, though. The final thing, which is the thing I'm most curious about, is so when they announced Part 2, they announced that they would be bringing back the multiplayer, which was very, very popular from Part 1. It was called Last of Us Factions. But Part 2 had various delays and such like, and so they ended up not releasing it with Factions multiplayer, and they said, it's coming. We're gonna release it at some point. Part 2 came out 2 years ago, nearly. I think 2 years next month, I want to say. And there's no Factions multiplayer released yet. They had an update on it. They're no longer making a Factions multiplayer mode. They are making The Last of Us multiplayer game that they've said is large in scope, which makes me wonder what the fuck that means, because Factions was fairly small maps, deathmatch basically. I'm wondering if they're making something a bit more like State of Decay, The Division sort of thing, a large open world multiplayer co-op game or something like that, or maybe an MMO. So that's curious.
Regardless of whether or not I've seen the shows, if the game looks good, I'll probably play it. Especially if it is, you know, like co-op or something. I probably wouldn't play it by myself, but if you guys, like, if you were playing it or something, I wouldn't mind hopping in and tagging along. But
I also think potentially if it is co-op or MMO style, and it has most of the combat from Part 2, that has some very cool recipes in it, because Part 2 has the most scrappy combat I've ever played. You haven't played the Uncharted games either, have you?
no, this what like on the top of my list when I get round to actually playing shit again, because
Fair.
yeah.
But I would go, Last of Us has the third scrappiest combat I've ever played, followed by Uncharted 4, followed by The Last of Us Part 2. So they really kind of like built up the scrappiness combat. And what I mean by that is stuff like you can be attacking someone and then suddenly they dodge out of the way and grab you, like with now they're choke holding you, and then one of your NPC teammates will come and rescue at the last minute, or sometimes they won't, so you can't always rely on them. You can do things like run past a brick and just toss it at someone as you're sprinting towards them to like daze them. It's like incredibly like just frantic, and Part 2 features a dodge mechanic, so it's even more frantic because melee combat's incredibly just violent and dangerous and quick, and so it's a lot of just like scares. But having a teammate where I'm fighting another player or I'm fighting an NPC clicker or hunter or whatever, and then I'm getting grabbed and I'm about to be bitten, and then my teammate comes in and just kicks it in the head, that sounds awesome, because it's already awesome when an NPC does it, but if it's my actual friend doing it, awesome sort of thing. So yeah, that sounds like a fun idea. Either way, I like the little hints that we're getting, and if they do like a co-op or maybe a slightly larger multiplayer experience with a storyline, that sounds awesome to me. So,
I just sort of going off of what you said about, you know, a zombie trying to bite you and then your friend coming in and hit you. I just kind of imagined a game kind of like, you know, what you just described, open world, you know, maybe like a few players trying to survive or whatever, maybe like a actual like server type game where it's always running type thing and you can build stuff. I guess kind of like DayZ.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's not just survivors. Like, I think it would be a really cool idea to have a game like DayZ where you can also play as zombies and have like different objectives and stuff, and uh like to try and take down the survivors and everything, and have like a whole sort of like not war, but I don't know how to explain it, but just sort of always going up against each other, and it would kind of be like a slow game, but then when shit goes down, it's really fucking exciting. I think that would be a really cool idea. Maybe there is a game out there like that. But...
as you were saying it, it kind of rang a bell. I feel like I remember H1Z1 allowing you to play as zombies, but I just googled it and I can't find anything about it. But I have a memory, but apparently I'm wrong, that when you got bitten in H1Z1, you kept on playing as a zombie. But yeah, apparently I'm wrong, or I just couldn't find it in the like 10 seconds I took to look it up. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, I have for a long time wanted, and I don't need it to be an MMO, I don't need it to be a survival sim, but I've just for a long time wanted a kind of open world co-op story driven experience that's set in basically a zombie apocalypse. It can be an MMO, but I think the downside to things like DayZ is that when it works, it's great because you have this tense moment of where you and someone else with a gun are both pointing them at each other and talking in-game comms. You're like, whoa, we don't need to do this sort of thing. And when they introduced VoIP to Tarkov, apparently the same thing happened occasionally. But the majority of the time, even if you say, hey man, I'm friendly, I don't need to shoot you, you don't need to shoot me, they just go, I don't fucking care, and they just shoot you anyways. Because unlike in real life, there is no skin off their back, really, if they shoot you. Like, the worst thing they lose is a couple of hours of effort to get some gear. So, like, it's cool in concept, but I'm not sure that can ever deliver. But, like, a 4-player open-world co-op experience, and then I guess you're getting to the Division, but the Division, I just don't think ever delivered on its concept. Also, there's not zombies, but yeah, the Division, I just felt was underwhelming, but theoretically was really, really cool. State of Decay was supposed to be that, but then they never released multiplayer for it, and then they've announced State of Decay 2, which will have multiplayer, or is it State of Decay 3 now that's going to have more? I don't fucking know, but I just don't really care about that franchise anymore, because I felt burnt out by the first one, promising stuff that it never delivered on. Maybe I should give it another go, but also the first one was very kind of cartoony, and like not particularly serious in its zombieing. And then there's a game called The Day Before, which has been announced. I don't know if you've seen any trailers for The Day Before or anything. I'd give it a look. It looks cool. It looks really cool. It looks amazing. It's also the first game being made by this studio. And I'm going, press X to doubt. Yeah. So I'm intentionally not getting my hopes up for it because I'm skeptical of what it will actually be like when they release it. But what they have shown, which could be completely fake because it's a pre-rendered trailer basically, but it looks really, really cool. So things like full exploring a shopping mall in an abandoned city, and then there was another trailer where you're like getting your tires stuck in the mud in the mountains outside the city on a in a 4x4 sort of thing. So large map and like hyper detail sort of things. That sounds really, really cool, but yeah. Doubtful it will actually be that good. But maybe. Surprise me, but I'm not getting my hopes up. But yeah. What was next on the list of things to talk about?
Dragon Age Absolution.
I posted this teaser and then never watched it.
I do that quite a lot. I actually did watch it. It looks good to me. I've booted up Dragon Age and maybe played about 20 minutes of one of the games. I don't know. Again, it's one of those games that I want to actually play.
Big hands or normal hands?
I can't remember. It was like a couple years ago.
Okay, Dragon Age Origins gets memed on a lot because for some reason someone's hands come out to about there for no fucking reason. Like, it's so noticeable how big their hands are in that game. But the others, and it's a really good game. It's just those hands are huge.
Let's see what I've got time in. Okay, so yeah, it wasn't even 20 minutes. It was Dragon Age Origins, and I played it for 8 minutes.
Okay.
But I've always, like, I've seen those games for years and years, and I know they've got like really good reviews, and you know, just people love them, and I really want to play them. It's one of those things where I just never seem to get around to it. But yeah, I really love the concept. Obviously, I love fantasy, so it's going to appeal to me pretty much. And this just looks like a fantasy anime type thing to me, so I'm in.
I'm just also kind of liking that for ages we had shit video game adaptations, and then we've had Arcane, and then Castlevania is supposed to be really good. I haven't watched Castlevania, but I've heard really, really good things. And then there's this. I'm like, hey, if this is also good, then let's continue this trend of having video games adapted into animes rather than video games adapted into live action, and maybe it'll keep working. I mean, I guess you don't really count Arcane as an anime, but it's an animation. It's an animated show. Yeah. So, but
no, I agree. I think animation these days is just a safe bet. And I mean, I feel like that is simply because they can just go all out and do some crazy shit rather than tone it down or have terrible fucking CGI in live action.
But I also think it's the TV show format to a certain extent. I can't think of any video game that's been adapted into a TV show other than live action, other than The Last of Us, which isn't out yet. I can't think of anything else.
Halo.
Fair. Never mind. I take back my theory that it maybe just works better. But you get my point, which is that, you know, I think adapting a video game has a very tough job because you're trying to adapt a lot of things that are different to, say, adapting a book. You're adapting a lot more hours of content because a book can fairly easily... So average screenplay rule is roughly 1 page for screenplay is 1 minute of screen time, roughly. So a 300-page book, that's 300 minutes, that's quite a lot of time. That's 5 hours. Cut it down to 200 pages, and you're then getting to just over 3 hours. You then got to include how much of a book is description, because that doesn't need to be in the script, because that can just be, you know, done in visual directing and such like. And yeah, when you strip it all down to dialogue and you cut out the non-essentials, you can fairly easily adapt a medium-sized book into a fairly like decent chunked movie without losing too much. You do obviously lose a lot, but not like ridiculous amounts. Compare that to an 18-hour video game.
Yeah.
Like, which is like a fairly short video game in most AAA studios. And so a TV show just makes a bit more sense in that regard. But the other thing, of course, you're trying to adapt is the feel of playing the video game, which I think is the bit that's always going to be tougher. And I haven't seen Castlevania, but Arcane, I think one of the things that it did well, admittedly, I haven't played League of Legends, so like I'm not connected to the gameplay in any way, shape, or form, but it's not trying to adapt the story of League of Legends. It's the lore of League of Legends. It's doing a different thing there, which is smarter than... One of the things I'm worried about with The Last of Us is that one of the things that works really well in The Last of Us is that you come to care about Ellie not just through cutscenes, but you actively protecting her in gameplay and, like, you know, fighting for her. That massively helps build your relationship, and optional conversations and her telling you jokes and you being able to be like, oh, please stop, and then she tells you another one, sort of thing. Like, all of that comes through in gameplay, and yes, you can do that in TV, but will it build as much of a connection as when it's you doing it, so to speak? I'm sure audiences will be connected to Ellie in the TV show, but will it be as much as I was playing the video game? I don't know. So
I also think it's partly because when you're playing a video game like The Last of Us, or just any video game where it has a linear story and not even necessarily a linear story, just a story that you play, and it has cutscenes, you're practically watching a movie anyway. I mean, like, if you just go on YouTube and you type in, like, full, like, ooh, Last of Us cutscenes or something, it's a movie, basically, you know? So at that point, you're like, well, why are you remaking this movie? Because even though it's a game, you're seeing it from a sort of movie standpoint.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you said, with a book, it's just words. And, like, you imagine it in your head, but then, like, if someone actually makes that into a film, it is very different, you know? And, I feel like remaking game or adapting games like that into movies is almost kind of doomed from the start, really. And the thing with, like, League of Legends, as you said, is the gameplay is very different to what the actual lore is. So when you're actually playing the game, you're not watching those movies, you're not whatever. Obviously, there are the, like CGI trailers and stuff, you know, that are really fucking cool. But ultimately, they are short, like 4-minute little snippets of, you know, movies, whereas an actual series like Arcane can properly sort of go into the lore and actually build upon it separately to the game.
But I think the other issue is with a lot of video game adaptations is that I don't feel they put the same level of care into it that you do when you're adapting a book. Because if you think about something like The Lord of the Rings, which is kind of the gold standard of adapting a book series, to the point that, sorry, Tolkien fans, I prefer the movies to the books. I think the movies are pretty much better in every single way to the books. The books are amazing, but I fucking hate reading them because I don't like Tolkien's writing style. I love his story, but I hate his writing style.
The movies are very much easier to stomach.
Yes, and one of the brilliant things is that what Tolkien did fantastically in his books is he wrote these beautiful descriptions where he spends 9 pages describing Bag End for us to then abandon it for 3 books. And Peter Jackson and his team went, cool, we know exactly what Bag End needs to look like, and then that's done in like 3 seconds of film time. So that's like the gold standard, but the level of passion and care that was done with that, I don't think we've seen many video game adaptations, if any, that have been done with that level of care. Maybe, I haven't seen Sonic, but maybe Sonic the Hedgehog is in that realm. Arcane, you could argue, is in that realm, but like...
I'd say with Sonic, it's different because of what Sonic is. Like, Sonic is very much a character that has gone through many phases, and, like, you know, throughout all his animated shows and video games, obviously, it's never really the same. So I'd say it's easier to sort of take the thing that the Sonic movies did perfectly, I think, is get his personality nailed, and that's something that's worth a lot. That is worth a lot, because you can take him out of wherever he is, like take him out of Green Hills or, you know, whatever, which is in the games just sort of his own world. In the movies, they made Green Hills like an actual place in, you know, the human world, but it still works because the character is exactly what he needs to be. But obviously with something like Lord of the Rings, there are so many different elements to it that you really need to focus on a lot of, as you said, like the description and how it looks and everything. But Sonic, I'd say, is different, but still on that track.
And to be clear, doing an adaptation, you don't need to do a one-to-one. And I think that's possibly one of the other faults with some adaptations of video games, is that they do try and do a kind of weird mishmash of one-to-one, but also not one-to-one, because they don't want to straight adapt the video game story, but they're like taking 90% of the iconography of it. Uncharted did this, Tomb Raider, the most recent Tomb Raider did this. It's like, that just feels a bit weird. Like, either do completely your own thing, but it feels like the video game, or straight adapt it. Don't do some weird middle ground. And I mean, maybe you could argue that superhero films mostly do that, where they take iconography, but they're doing their own thing. But I don't know, I don't know. So many video game adaptations don't feel like they're done by people who actually give a shit. They feel like they're done by a studio that wants money. That's the bottom line. I haven't seen Uncharted, though, so not necessarily throwing Uncharted in that lot. It just looked like that from the trailers, but I haven't seen the actual movie, so...
Yeah, I think it just also comes down to like superhero movies, for example. The same with Sonic. If you get the characters right and their personalities and stuff, but then maybe change like the setting or something, to me that is a decent adaptation. You're making your own spin on the characters, but also they're not so far away from the characters that you know and love from comics and whatever other media that it is enjoyable and, you know, actually serves the OG fans and maybe bringing in a new audience and showing off their take on the character. But then obviously you have shit like what was it we were talking about earlier, like the Joker, you know, doing his take. What's the director's name
Todd
again?
Phillips.
Yeah, he was doing his own take on the character. That's fine, like if you want to do that, but then to have it so far away from what the character actually is, that's where it falls down, in my opinion.
Yeah, but either way, we basically didn't talk about Dragon Age, but
yeah, looks good.
Video games adapting. Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I'm quite excited for this. The only thing I'm not excited about is that it looks like we're going to be getting Taskmaster from Black Widow movie. I did not like that.
Don't do Taskmaster from Black Widow. Just don't even try and retcon it either and bring in the new Taskmaster. Just bring in Greg Davies and little Alex Horn.
That would be really funny. I would enjoy that. But yeah, I really didn't like that version of the character. I think it was a nothing character to me. They took away everything that was special about the character and just made it into a little chip in the back of their head. Like it didn't work for me. And Taskmaster is one of my favorite characters, so obviously I was going to be slightly biased, but even if I wasn't, I still don't think I would have really enjoyed that character. So I'd either, I mean, obviously spoilers for Black Widow, probably should have said that beforehand, but I mean, it's been out for a while now, and also I feel like a lot of people just didn't really give a shit about that movie anyway, so deal with it. But at the end of Black Widow, obviously she gets like freed from being controlled by her like father figure, or just straight up father, and goes off with the rest of the widows. So I guess there is room for her to sort of become more of her own person and maybe sort of develop personality and, you know, sort of actually go out on her own and become this mercenary type thing. Which, okay, if they go down that route, I will tip my hat to them for actually trying to make it a decent character. It may not work, but it would be nice for them to try, because otherwise, again, I don't want to see a nothing character return. They've got to at least make her into something worthwhile watching. But if they do that, then with the rest of the cast of the characters, I think it could be a really fun movie. I'm curious how they're gonna handle the Thunderbolt part, though, because obviously the actor that was playing General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross recently passed away. So I'm wondering if maybe they'll recast, or if maybe this was like a sort of thing that maybe he set up before he died in universe, and now they're continuing sort of thing, like the Avengers.
I think it will be that they'll probably incorporate his real world death into the story. I don't think that was probably the intention originally, but I think that they'll probably be like, now that he's gone, we're doing this like to uphold his legacy because he was right, sort of thing. Like his worldview was right, and he's we need these people in place, sort of thing. I think that might be the vibe they go with. But yeah, I don't think that was the intention originally, because William Hurt's a fantastic actor who feels a little bit underused recently, because he like barely appears in Endgame and Black Widow, but like what he did in those was cool. But it's just like, and it might have been that he was being underused because he was elderly and possibly in poor health. I don't know, but like, yeah, I imagine if they had this Thunderbolts plan cooking in the background, that they probably wanted to have him come back in like an almost Nick Fury sort of role. So
yeah, I mean, they could always have him like appear as Red Hulk and just have like a sort of dub or something. But I mean, I feel like I'd rather they just didn't do that.
Yeah.
See, it would have been cool to see Red Hulk, but I'm not overly concerned if we don't get it. Like I'd rather they just avoided that and focused on the other characters and just made it his legacy type thing, as you said.
I know it's nothing like linked at all, really, but I wonder whether they might do Contessa Fontaine almost taking over that role, just because she's already had a bit of a Nick Fury sort of vibe in the MCU so far.
Yeah, I think she'll definitely be like their handler.
Yeah. And
it's looking to me like Zemo will probably be like the leader of the group.
Yeah, that would be a decent guess. People have been theorizing that maybe Winter Soldier or Bucky will be in the group. I feel like he probably won't. I feel like that's a back step for that character.
Yeah, definitely.
He might appear in it as like almost like he clashes with them at some point or something, but I don't think he will be in the group.
I feel like that would be I mean, there's already sort of a weird dynamic, I think, going on with all the characters, because they've all got histories somehow. Like with... I was just thinking of a completely different character. Okay, ignore that. But I mean, well, for example, Yelena and Taskmaster.
Yeah. Because Florence Pugh once appeared on Taskmaster as one of the contestants.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I feel like it would be really strange if Bucky was there with Zemo.
Yeah. It could theoretically work if, like, I don't know, the Thunderbolts were on a mission that Bucky was also doing basically the same mission but separately. They clashed, and then he's like, oh, I'm not letting you guys run fucking wild. I'm going to come in and basically, like, be the one who makes sure that you don't fuck up, sort of thing. They could theoretically do it that way, but him just being in it as like a normal member, I think, would be a back step for the character.
It also kind of depends on where they're taking Bucky now, because he kind of gave up the Winter Soldier thing and was just trying to get back to he was trying to get back to a regular sort of life, obviously.
Making
before
votes,
and after,
trying to fuck Sam's sister.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be interesting to see what he is up to after the show. But it would be a bit out of the blue for me to see him just randomly doing like jobs and shit,
I hope, from the fact that the end title card for Falcon and Winter Soldier was Captain America and the Winter Soldier, I don't think that's what the next movie is going to be called, because we've already had that movie, but I hope that means that Bucky is going to be in the next Captain America movie. That's where I would most like to see him next, is in that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if he shows up... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love their chemistry. I think they're great together.
Yeah, absolutely. If he showed up in Wakanda Forever, I wouldn't, like, as the next thing he appears in, I wouldn't be opposed to that, because he does have some connections to Wakanda. At the same time, I feel like Wakanda Forever should be focused mostly on Wakandans, so the more kind of outsider characters you have in there, like Martin Freeman's character as well, it's just like, it might feel like you're kind of taking attention away from where the focus should be, I guess. So but particularly for a character like Bucky, who's so like established at this point with quite a lot of lore. But yeah, no, I like the idea of a Thunderbolts movie. It kind of feels like it might be Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad, but probably less ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will work quite well. As I said though, as long because I also feel like it kind of falls on how much Taskmaster is in it and what they do with the character. Because if she's in it a lot, but also hasn't really got any sort of character progression since we last saw her, it's gonna be a big downer on the show, I think.
Oh, is it a show or a movie? Sorry, I thought it was
movie. Sorry, but just movie. Because it's just dead weight.
You call me dead weight.
I was waiting for that. But yeah, I think it would be good. Hopefully.
There's a Duke Nukem movie in development from Cobra Kai creators and Legendary Entertainment.
I used to love Duke Nukem as a kid. I love Cobra Kai. It will be cool to see him on screen.
I don't like Duke Nukem, but I've heard good things about Cobra Kai. That is my opinion.
Just to be clear, I haven't played Duke Nukem
I'm not
literally since I was a kid.
I'm also not judging you for liking it if you do like it. I just don't like
it.
No.
I wasn't addressing you. I was just saying, like, I haven't played it since I was a kid. So I may not even like it anymore. But, like, the only things I remember are, like, his one-liners. That was all I liked as a kid. I don't even remember the gameplay. So I'm like, well, as long as there's one-liners, I'll probably find it somewhat enjoyable.
Who do you want to play Duke Nukem?
Ooh.
I've got an idea that's just popped in my head that I wouldn't be opposed to.
Who would be a good Duke Nukem? I feel like he's got to be slightly older, but like just very. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
See, my one was younger, so maybe it's too young. The first thought that just popped in my head of like someone who could play like a kind of ridiculous 80s action hero nowadays, but young. Channing Tatum.
I could see that. I'm just thinking who could pull off the blonde flat top.
Not him, but I feel like that might actually work in his favor that he can't pull it off.
I don't know who I would want to play him, but I'm sure there are probably some good people out there that I just can't think of right now. Maybe not.
If you wanted to go super old, Bruce Campbell.
I don't want to go super old. I mean, when I say
Harrison
older,
Ford.
That would be funny. But like, I feel like he'd. No,
he would die.
I think he'd be amazing. Actually.
Okay.
Just for the memes. I just want to see a really fucking old Harrison Ford delivering shitty one-liners
in a red tank top.
Yeah. Just completely like deflated and yeah, that'd be a sight.
Time for some more NFT news. Were you confused?
Yeah.
You were confused. I thought you were confused. Seth Green got his fucking Bored Ape back for $300,000.
This motherfucker. He not only did he pay an extortionate amount for some shitty fucking ape JPEG in the first place, he got it fucking stolen and then bought it back for $300,000,
which is $100,000 profit for the guy who bought it legitimately off the thief. because he didn't know he was buying off a thief in the first place. So the guy who ended up buying Seth Green's NFT made a $100,000 profit off of Seth Green as well.
Why? What is wrong with you?
Seth Green doesn't pay enough taxes is the conclusion I've come to.
He doesn't pay enough for fucking anything except NFTs, I guess.
I don't want to go into it a lot because we talked about it a lot last week, but it was announced this week, and I was like, oh, well, we can't not mention it on the podcast.
I mean, what is there else to say about it other than it's just
he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, literally, that's all we can say.
Cool. Then we'll move on. But you're a fucking idiot, Seth Green.
Agreed.
Starfield. Did you watch the gameplay trailer?
I have not.
Ooh, okay. Well, shit,
I don't really know what it is.
You don't know what Starfield is?
Is it the Bethesda game?
Yeah, it's their new game.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had a quick glance at it when it was first announced, and I just concluded at that point, don't really care that much. But
well, shit,
could be good.
It's a 12-minute trailer, so you're not going to be able to watch it really now. But I'll talk through my thoughts on it real quick. Look, I've talked about Skyrim before on this podcast. I've talked about Fallout on this podcast. I want to make it clear, I don't think Skyrim's a bad game, and I don't think Fallout 4 is a bad game, or Fallout 3 is a bad game. I do think that they are dated as fuck, even when they came out, and they are so overhyped because Bethesda has indoctrinated its fans to just accept what they're giving out. And it pisses me off that other studios get shat on when they put out Bethesda quality stuff, but Bethesda doesn't get shat on. That's what pisses me off. Skyrim, solid 7 out of 10. Fallout 4, solid 7 out of 10. Actually, that's not fair. Fallout 4 is worse than Skyrim. Skyrim, solid 7.5 out of 10. There we go. I watched this trailer. It's a new engine. Bethesda have finally, I believe, either they moved onto a new engine for Starfield, or they're moving onto a new engine for Elder Scrolls 6. I think it was for Starfield that they made a new engine, finally. Because they've been using the same engine since Morrowind beforehand, so 2003. It looks fine. It looks like a 7 out of 10. It looks a lot like No Man's Sky. Like, gameplay-wise.
I mean, there's a lot more sort of gunplay and everything to it. It looks...
But the gunplay looks Fallout 4.
Yeah, I mean... I've kind of come to expect that from FPSs from Bethesda. But then
the question is, why do they keep on focusing on those sorts of mechanics when the mechanics they're not good at? They strip down the role-playing elements, which are what they were great at, and then continue to just not do particularly good combat as a replacement for the lack of RP. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, again, it looks fine. I'm going to play it. I'm probably going to enjoy it, but it looks so mid, and so many people are hyped for it, and I don't get it. I just don't. Like, so I'll say what I liked about it. Visually, I quite like the aesthetic they're going for, of like very realistic looking sci-fi. Some people have hated on it. Some people have said like it looks drab and grey. Fine, whatever, but I quite like the aesthetic. I like the fact that you can fully make your own spaceship. You can customize every single bit of it, and you can hire your own crew. Sounds cool. Probably fairly shallow. Like it's probably similar to building a settlement in Fallout 4, but I still like that. I quite liked building settlements in Fallout 4. The idea of building my own spaceship does sound cool. The basic premise of the story, albeit very generic, we've seen it dozens of times before. Weird mystical artifact left by ancient aliens. What does this mean for the galaxy? I mean, that's Mass Effect, that's The Expanse, that's No Man's Sky. So we've seen it before, but like, I like it. It works as a trope, so I'm fine with it. I'm just very worried about how much Todd Howardisms are in this presentation, because he says a lot of shit. I think I accidentally started playing the trailer. No. Don't stop playing audio. Okay, I think I'm out. Yeah. My biggest concern is towards the end of the trailer, he says, there's 100 star systems and 1,000 planets for you to explore.
That's very big.
And people are hyped for that. And I'm like, have you not learned from Todd Howard when he's doing these presentations? And he goes, that mountain up there has its own entire biosphere. It's just the bullshit he says on the stage, and it's fine. But it's just like, I would rather have, like, I can almost guarantee it's going to be like 5 to 10 pretty handcrafted planets. The planets are probably going to be the size of large cities, but they're going to be cool planets. And there'll be like 5 to 10 that are handcrafted, that have a lot of story content in them. They've got a lot of like custom assets in them. They look great, right? And then the rest of the planets are going to be, procedurally generated. Might have a handcrafted base or handcrafted cave thrown in on 1 or 2 of them in every system. And the rest of it's going to be resource collecting. And it's going to be completely pointless me going to it. And I'd have rather if you just made an extra 2 planets that actually had handcrafted elements in them.
Yeah, I feel like when they say there are thousands of planets to explore, what I feel that means is, as you said, there's like one sort of key location on that planet that you'll probably have to go there for a mission, but then as soon as you've done that mission there is nothing really else there for you, so why would you spend any time there?
Yep. Yeah, I remember when Oblivion came out. If memory serves, the cheat code was TCL, which allowed you to no-clip. And you could no-clip outside the boundaries of the map, and you could see the rest of Cyrodiil. Oh, the rest of Tamriel, sorry. You could see the landscape of Elsewhere. It had no textures to it. It had nothing in it. But it was there. I was like, that's pretty cool. As like a 10-year-old, I was like, oh, that's cool. I can see this thing. And then modders added in stuff. And I mean, ultimately, one of the reasons why Bethesda games are so beloved, I think, is because modders make an okay game and make it amazing. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the mods on Starfield. And, okay, so theoretically, the idea that there's thousands of planets or 1,000 planets ready there that are empty, and modders can go in and add stuff to them, that sounds cool in theory, because I remember years after Oblivion came out, someone made the entirety of Elsewhere as a continent, and it had cities, and it had some storyline stuff to it, and that was fucking awesome. But, like, the void of just nothing there, I don't give a shit about. And, frankly, my time is worth more than that, Todd Howard. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it just... I wasn't expecting much, but I was hoping that Bethesda were going to show us something cool and new, but it all felt incredibly familiar. And that's completely understandable, because their incredibly familiar stuff that they've been putting out sells well. So why put in the effort to try and be amazing? But when other game studios are trying stuff that is awesome, I'm just like, yeah, I will play Starfield and I will probably enjoy it for about 60 hours and then forget about it. The Witcher 3 lives in my head rent-free. So, you know. That's my conclusion. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk on Starfield. Oh, one cool thing that they did announce today, though, after the trailer came out, is that your character will not be voice acted. Because that was one of the big criticisms a lot of people had in Fallout 4, is we don't like the bland voice acting you gave our protagonist, and we liked voicing our own characters. Yeah, they listened, so that's cool. But, yeah, I mean, again, I think story-wise, it looks cool. World-wise, it looks cool. I just wish that there was more. That's all I can really say at the end of the day. I wish the facial animations didn't look like they were about 6 years old. I wish that the gameplay looked a little bit sharper. But
I don't know if I'll even bother playing it. Honestly, I mean, as I said, I when it was first announced, I wasn't really that overwhelmed by it. Um, it just it just kind of looks like nothing to me. Like I just don't. Nothing really grips me about it. There are plenty of other sci-fi games that just probably do that better. I mean, to me, this kind of just looks like maybe a non-cartoony version of fuck, what was it called?
No Man's
The
Sky?
game that I like. No, the game that I beat in like record time.
Oh, the Outer Worlds.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of looks like that to me, but like it doesn't really have any other sort of character to it or anything.
I mean, that's actually a perfect example. And okay, I still don't know how you beat the Outer Worlds in like 4 hours or whatever it was. I have no idea. But that was like a 25-hour game for me. Maybe I can look it up how long it took me to beat. No, I can't. It's on GOG. It's on Epic, and I can't be bothered to look at Epic because I don't have it open. But it was maybe 30 hours or so. And that 30 hours consisted of 4 planets, all fairly small, all completely handcrafted. It had janky gameplay, like combat, because it was Obsidian doing it on a fairly small budget, and it's basically like the same as Skyrim or Fallout's combat in that way. But the entire world, the entire lore, the entire characters just oozed with personality and humor, and there was just like stuff that made it worth your while to explore. And okay, it was 20 to 30 hours, unless you're Alex. But
I enjoyed every one of those 4 hours.
but that 20 to 30 hours was, to me, more memorable than anything in Fallout 4, for instance. I will say, and maybe it's because it came out when I was younger, Skyrim, as much as I like to shit on it, I do remember really, really enjoying discovering the world of Skyrim for the first time when I was first playing it. I think possibly the problem is that I continued to play it when I was a little bit older and went, ooh, this is where all of these things are like. And then I go back and play Morrowind, and I'm like, actually, none of this has lost its shine to me, even though you look like you pissed your pants when you're walking. You just do. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the problem is that Starfield will probably be a Game of the Year contender, sell ridiculous numbers of copies, and Bethesda will be given no incentive to try. And to be clear, because I don't want to sound like I'm being like just a dick to everyone who works at Bethesda, I am sure every single person who is like doing the nitty gritty of making this game is trying. I mean, the people making the big creative decisions are not trying anything difficult. Because even the ship combat that's shown in the trailer looks fine. None of it, and maybe it was because it was cut up and was someone else playing it, and so it wasn't me experiencing it, but it felt nowhere near as kinetic as something like Star Citizen's alpha still. And to be clear, Star Citizen's not a good example of a good video game because it's still in fucking alpha. It's been going for it's an awful example of game development, but in terms of what is there, the space combat feels so kinetic and punchy, and that just felt like the player was dragging their mouse slowly and then tapping left click at the other enemies. It didn't feel punchy. So I don't know. Yeah. Still, we're getting the Outer Worlds 2 from Obsidian at some point, so that'll be another 4 hours for you, bud.
Yeah.
Cool.
I believe that's all the topics, save for Kenobi and Stranger Things.
Let's do them. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I feel like
It might be the right one. It's like a 1 in an 8 chance. I pressed the wrong button.
The Higgledy Piggledy Podcast.
Fuck. I do have Obi-Wan Kenobi on it.
Yeah. Because I feel like we're only covering two episodes of that, whereas Stranger Things is like quite a big.
Yeah.
Quite a big.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think about the last two episodes of Obi-Wan?
It's been fun. I think the first two were possibly more up my alley. I think the latter two have been a bit more action driven, and that's what's, some people are going to really, really enjoy that, but I did prefer the slightly more kind of character study feel of the first two. But like, that's such a minor gripe because I mean, it's still thoroughly enjoying these two. We doing non-spoilers first, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm liking the overall plot still. I'm liking the performances still. I'm liking most of the visuals still. There's some like particularly like visually striking sequences in these two episodes. I also think that there's some stuff that feels a little bit rushed. In particular, without this isn't really a spoiler. Obi-Wan feels like he goes from having none of his groove to like very quickly having his groove back in the space of the same episode, and that felt a bit jarring to me.
Yes.
It's cool to see him have his groove back, but it didn't feel wholly earned, because literally earlier in that episode we saw how not having his groove back he was. So
I mean, it's difficult to talk about this without going into spoilers, so yeah. I'll put a pin in that for now, because I do have like a sort of devil's advocate type thing going on for that. But okay. Overall, I agree with you. I as you said, I still like where the plot is going. I'm enjoying the characters. I again love the visuals, but yeah, there are a few gripes I have with it, specifically with like, I guess, the way the editing is done and the pacing that the editing then creates. Again, in these last two episodes, same with the first two, I had a couple of moments where I was like, like what happened in that time, Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall, I'm really enjoying it. I don't think it's amazing by any standards, really. I think it's like good just to sit and watch for like an hour, and like obviously you get your Star Wars fix, but
what you're saying is Star Wars Leviathan, available now on PB Marsh YouTube channel and Twitch, is better.
Yes. Yes.
Even though you're skipping on us this week.
Unfortunately. But, maybe we'll have a solo session.
That is the plan. Possibly tomorrow if I've got it ready by then and people are available. If not, then next week.
I should be available tomorrow. I don't see why I wouldn't be.
Cool.
But yeah, it's good, but it's not my favorite. Probably nowhere near.
Book of Boba Fett, which was your favorite?
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. I don't even know. I'm not sure where I'd place those two. I feel like they'd probably be on a similar sort of level for me. But I think I'm biased there, because obviously I started out by saying that I didn't really care all that much about Kenobi in the first place. So I feel like just being able to see Boba again stood up quite high for me, whereas obviously not caring about Kenobi drags it down a little bit. But I definitely think the Obi-Wan show is...
It's the more consistent, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. It's more consistent than Boba, but Boba was Boba even if he wasn't in it for that long. So,
should we go into spoilers?
Yeah, I think that's probably best.
There's spoilers coming for Obi-Wan Kenobi. The chapter's down below. if you don't want the spoilers for Obi-Wan Kenobi, then click on to when we're talking about Stranger Things.
Unless you don't want Stranger Things spoilers.
Well, we're going to do non-spoilers first, I imagine, for Stranger Things. If not, skip to whatever's
the
after
end.
that. I mean, there's one section after that, but I can't be bothered to come up with how I'm going to intro it, because, yeah. Anyways, so, spoilers. Yeah, should we do episode 3 first?
Sure, yeah. I am having a little bit of a difficult time remembering what happened in episode 3.
So I'll rattle off some stuff that I really, really liked off the bat. I really liked the whole Zach Braff alien thing that we didn't know was Zach Braff at first.
Yeah.
Just because it did feel very kind of... The Empire are the Nazis, the space Nazis that they are. And this felt very kind of reminiscent of that sort of vibe when they are talking to this person who seems perfectly friendly and lovely, and then they go around the back of his truck to get in the back of his truck for a lift, and they see the Empire's symbol like painted on a flag just flying from the back of his truck. And yeah, that was a cool moment. And then the whole them sat there with the stormtroopers. I liked Obi-Wan and Leia's little back and forth there about, like, you know, her mother and her father. That was all good. And then I like the Anakin, the Vader versus Obi-Wan fight. I like Vader just like fucking killing people in the street. That was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked Obi-Wan versus Vader's fight. It felt very kind of... I think some people disliked it because they wanted this big cinematic fight, but this very much felt like it wasn't supposed to be a big cinematic fight. It reminded me a lot of, you know, when Luke and Vader face off in Empire Strikes Back, and it starts off super cinematic, and then Luke starts to fucking panic as he starts to lose this fight, and Vader's just tossing stuff at him, and it stops feeling cinematic for like a good 2 or 3 minutes when it's just Luke basically being bullied by Vader. That's what this reminded me of, and I like that quite a bit. It was Vader very much toying with Obi-Wan. And I love the drama queenness of Vader dragging Obi-Wan through the fire. That felt just peak Anakin Skywalker to me.
Yeah, I mean, that was that time in the episode, or around that time in the episode. That was one of the things where I was like, whew, this feels a bit rushed and also just confusing to me. Which I believe, I can't remember if it was you that I was talking to about it or
You
Samo.
mentioned it to me.
But you know, it's worth noting that maybe that's kind of what they were going for, to kind of show that maybe like Obi-Wan was confused as to everything that was going on. Like it was all just kind of like everything happening at once, and it was like, you know, it just, you know, 1 minute they're about to sort of escape with Leia and get her home safely. Next minute, Vader's just fucking killing people in the streets. You know, like I guess I can kind of see it that way, but watching it in the moment, I felt a little overwhelmed by what was happening and just confused as to how people were getting to places and how things like worked. For example, one of the things I know I mentioned to you was the tunnel scene. So they're going into like this tunnel, and the lady that was pretending to be an officer.
Game of Thrones
Can't remember
lady.
it. Yes. You know, she tells Leia to keep going, and Leia's like running for quite a while, and then the fourth sister, isn't it?
Third.
Fuck. I can never remember the bloody numbers. Yeah, the third sister enters the tunnel like a little while after, but then suddenly she's ahead of Leia, and also suddenly the officer lady is outside but didn't pass the third sister.
Okay, so I've got a very simple fix for the first question. Leia is a lot like Tommy. She's short. She has little legs.
Okay, but like, surely she'd see the Inquisitor like
I've got
run past her or
I've got another little answer for you. Remember when you were a kid and you'd sometimes lose your parents in the supermarket because you couldn't see them anymore? No, I mean, I've got an actual answer for you, which is that you're right. I do think the editing was a little bit sloppy because there was one extra thing that they could have shown just to make it a little bit more sense. But Reva is in the like little path hideout. She goes into the tunnel. She sees the tunnel. She gets pissed off. She like smashes a chair. And then the next time we see her is her at the end of the tunnels confronting Leia. She left and went round the other way. How she knew where the tunnel came out, that's the bit that we're not sure, but she left the building, found out where the tunnel was coming from the other end, and just waited at the other end.
It's where she went into the tunnel, though.
She did, and got pissed off, and then that was the last time we saw her. Pretty sure we didn't actually see her go further into the tunnels than like the very entrance. If I'm wrong about that, the tunnel's a labyrinth, like, and she managed to just get ahead of her by taking a different path because Leia didn't know which path to take. That's the other easy answer. I'm not excusing the editing because I do think the editing does not help that, but I don't think it's like continuity breaking or anything. It's just sloppy.
Yeah, okay. But then the officer lady.
I guess Reva had left at that point. Again, this supports my idea that Reva didn't go through the tunnels, and then the officer lady just got lucky that no one else was in the streets waiting because there seemed to only be one way in that building, which is the front door.
Everyone just completely like left the streets, I guess.
Or
because
again, the tunnel's a labyrinthine, and she took a different path that she knew about to get her outside somewhere else. But then that's still sloppy. Show us a hologram map of the tunnels just to let us know that it's labyrinthine and there's lots of entrances and exits. Simple fix, you know.
And I think maybe I have an answer to this next bit. But at the time I was still a little bit confused as to why he did it. But when Vader first appears in front of Obi-Wan decides to run off into like some like mud piles. Yeah. And then lights his lightsaber up, putting himself at a complete disadvantage, and then runs out again. And like I guess like my conclusion was, oh, he was just buying time for Leia. But like, why would you do that? Why would you not just kind of like keep running and sort of dart around and sort of like make him follow you rather than run into these mounds and just fuck yourself over royally? I didn't quite understand that, but I mean, okay, sure.
He was buying time for Leia, yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know, I like, these obviously don't ruin the show for me at all. But it just breaks my immersion quite a lot because there are just multiple occasions in this show where I'm just like, but like how or why? And like I'm thinking about it for minutes after, you know, and then even after because I'm bringing it up on the podcast, and it's annoying at the time, you know.
No, I fully get that. Again, I think that's a criticism you can levy at this whole show so far. There's the bounty hunter incident in episode 2. There was to a lesser extent the chase sequence in episode 1 where it's like, why did it take them so long to capture Leia? Again, none of those detract from my enjoyment, but I don't think that they're invalid to point out and say, you know, that it's maybe could have been a little bit tightened up here or there. But yeah, it doesn't detract from my enjoyment. I think some people where they got quite annoyed with episode 3 is that so Vader drags Obi-Wan through like some coals that have been set on fire and like just like drags her around. It's just like peak Anakin. Also, I loved it was such a generic line, but like I was honestly amazed we'd never heard it before because it's such an Anakin thing to say. You should have killed me when you had the chance. I was like, I mean, come on, Anakin's such a drama queen. How have we not heard that before? Yeah, so he's dragging everyone through the fire. Then the stormtroopers get shot at, and the droid grabs everyone and rescues him. And people are like, why did Vader just let him go when this slow moving droid dragging Obi-Wan's body away? I think again, it's fine if you want to criticize the show for making you question that logic, because if it made you question it, it made you question it. But the answer I would have is that Vader was never planning on killing Obi-Wan. He was planning on torturing him. So letting him get away is kind of fine because he gets to keep on torturing him mentally. So, I mean, it's a thing Vader's done that sort of shit before in the comics as well. So he kind of does it with Luke as well, doesn't he? In Empire Strikes Back, he's like, yeah.
Yeah, he could have quite easily have caught him.
Or at least, like, put more pressure on the Millennium Falcon and had it be a more daring escape, but they kind of just go.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that Vader can do and just chooses not to, so.
Really, Vader's just a fucking lazy person. He's just a lie about it, isn't he?
He's just a troll. He just likes griefing people.
Yeah. But, and in episode 4, I found it fucking hilarious that, and to be fair, like, some people are going to be like, this proves bad writing. I'm like, this fucking is Star Wars, mate. This is peak Star Wars energy. But I found it fucking hilarious that Obi-Wan sneaks into Fortress Inquisitorius the exact same way that Cal Kestis does it. And they haven't improved their security at all 5 years later. And it just basically goes exactly the same way, including the, like, cracking of the glass in one of the tunnels. Like, they didn't think to reinforce those tunnels at any point after. I'm just like, really? But also, the Death Star and the Death Star 2, so I completely buy that the Imperials don't learn from their fucking lessons. But it was just like, yeah, I just thought it was really funny that it was the exact same method.
Yeah. No, I did see a lot of full lore.
But I think those are intentional references as well, and people have also thought that there's another intentional video game reference in this episode to Force Unleashed. The CGI trailer for Force Unleashed 2 features a very similar scene to when Obi-Wan's in the room and it's like completely dark and he just like turns on the lightsaber and cuts the stormtroopers down.
When me and Samo were watching it, we were just like, oh, that's like Ahsoka.
When does Ahsoka do that?
In The Mandalorian. When we first see her.
Yeah. No, that's fair as well. I think this was a more overtly visual reference to Force Unleashed just because it's a dark room with stormtroopers and a guy turning on blue lightsabers. But yeah, no, it's very similar to what Ahsoka was doing as well.
It was pretty badass, whatever it was in reference to. But
some people didn't like the fact it seemed to take Obi-Wan 3 cuts to cut down that stormtrooper, but I think that's such a nitty-gritty like complaint. I think it was more just him not trusting himself to actually do it properly. It's just him kind of hacking at the guy rather than striking the guy down. I was fine with it because he strikes other mofos down properly later on in the episode. But as I said earlier, one of the minor gripes I have, and you said you're the devil's advocate for it, is that there is one point in the episode where we see him like practicing with the Force before they get to Fortress Inquisitorius, and he can barely like drag a tiny little piece of metal towards him. And then later on in the episode, he's just cutting people down, and he's holding back the like tons of water like he's back in the Clone Wars. And it just felt like, ooh, that was quite quick to go from one to the other. And I'd honestly probably be completely fine with it if they hadn't shown us him struggling with the Force earlier that episode, because it makes a little bit more sense from episode 3 to 4 that he's building in strength. But like, we've was shown that he barely grew in strength from episode 3 at the beginning of episode 4, and then he just has later on in the episode, sort of thing. But you have a devil's advocate.
Yeah, okay. So I'll address the lightsaber thing first. As you said, I think he may just not have like trusted himself or something. Like, he's still a bit like iffy with his lightsaber. I mean, you could even tell from when he was fighting Vader. Obviously, like, he doesn't do his usual form or anything. You know, I think he's just a bit rough around the edges, basically. And so, you know,
also in the Vader fight, I'm pretty sure he's having a full-blown panic attack for the entirety of the time.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you get the idea. You know, he's just a bit rusty, basically, and I think that kind of explains why it maybe took him a few hits, because he's just used to it again. But the Force thing, I have recently started watching Rebels, finally, and we
should talk about that in the media bit later on as well.
I am.
Cool.
Yeah. But I've watched the first 10 episodes now, and something that I can take from that is that Force sensitive people can suddenly get bursts of power and then go straight back to not being able to control it very well in moments of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was a moment of crisis, and he probably just did it without really thinking about it. And like, the Force just kind of gave him a boost, because the Force is living, like, it has been known to, you know, just kind of like bolster someone up without them even really realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could just be, it was a moment of crisis and everything came together for that burst of power to hold that.
It's also worth noting that the 2 times we've seen him properly use the Force, although he's still struggling with it both times, is when Leia's life is directly in danger. His fight against Vader, she's indirectly in danger because he doesn't know that she's there. She's hidden. He thinks that she's with someone else who's going to protect her. So, like, he's buying her time, but he, like, you know, he doesn't need to do anything incredibly, like, powerful with the Force. So, yeah, it absolutely could also be that. And to be honest with you, even when I was complaining about it, I thought of basically exactly what you were saying. But I still think it's worth noting that I think it's they could have just not had him struggle with that little bit of metal earlier on. I feel like it would have been a little bit cleaner. But that's like a little tiny gripe. A bigger gripe, which I'm going to be completely honest, I normally notice bad CGI and stuff. I've complained about bad CGI a lot on this podcast. I didn't notice this when watching it, but other people have pointed it out, and now that I see it, it's very hard not to notice. Those A-wings, not correctly to scale for a lot of that fight. If you go back and watch it, they're shifting in scale quite a lot. There's one scene in particular when one of them is shooting at Reva, and presumably it's supposed to be like further away from the camera than Reva is, but the perspective's not right, and so it looks like it's on the same plane as Reva, and it makes Reva either look like she's about 18 feet tall, or the A-wing look like it's barely able to fit one person in it. So, like, visually, the renders of the A-wings look fantastic, but just like something to do with the comping in the scene. But again, I didn't notice it when watching it, so at that point, is it even worth complaining about that much? But other people clearly did notice it while watching it, so yeah, I don't know. That's just, it's TV, innit?
Yeah. I mean,
it's caught on one of the
you know, like, as someone who doesn't really pay much attention to that type of stuff, I will talk a little bit about it in Stranger Things, though, because I think there was a couple of scenes where I was like, ooh. Yeah, I didn't really notice, and it, like, I don't think it would really bother me that much, even if I did.
Fair. Oh, one final thing I'm just going to beam on a little bit was the guy in the 4th episode who's like, I'm not helping you because of this reason, and this reason. Obi-Wan goes, yeah, but maybe you should help me though. And he's like, all right, I'll help you for my wife who's dead.
Oh, yeah.
He's like completely 180'd himself, and Obi-Wan basically said nothing. I just thought, that's funny. But those sorts of moments, I'm not even sure that they're not supposed to be a little bit funny. Like, people have also been complaining about Leia hiding underneath Obi-Wan's trench coat when they're trying to escape. It's Star Wars, man. Who gives a shit at that point about that sort of stuff?
Also, the officer lady, when she like went out the back and just started having like a punch up with the other officer, and like
just
nobody
came
heard.
back.
And she was also just sat there, like, in front of like, someone sat directly next to her, and she's like, Obi-Wan, I'm gonna
Obi-Wan,
open the doors.
Jedi Knight, Jedi Master and Hero of the Republic, you should take a left now.
Literally. Like, again, it didn't ruin it for me, but I was just like, how does no one hear this? Are they all deaf?
Yeah.
Like, they even look at her at times because she's talking, and nobody thinks to be like, what is she saying? Where did she just disappear to? Why is she now back and the other officer isn't?
And also, like, you see where she hides the body. It's about 10 feet away from these guys working at their desk. I mean, ultimately, they clearly do find the body because, like, shit goes wrong. But, like, I was like, come on, someone's going to find that in about 30 seconds. Like, it's like the equivalent of, like, knocking someone unconscious in an office and then just hiding them next to the water cooler. It's like... But yeah, I mean, none of that detracts from my enjoyment at all. I also loved, and so there's been a bit of back and forth about how much Hayden Christensen is in the suit, because a stunt double tweet or Instagrammed out a picture of him and the other stunt double, along with the like coach for the fight scenes, and basically said, anytime you see full body shots, it's me, and anytime you see like action scenes, it's this guy. And then people were like, well, when's it Hayden then? And they haven't answered that. And so some people are like, is Hayden even in the suit at all? Is it all a lie? Blah, 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 blah. I think Hayden is in the suit a lot of the time. Maybe not all the time. And if he's not all the time, then that's fine. But I definitely felt like like him charging in on Reva and then just like force gripping her, that felt very Hayden Christensen to me. The like angry walk. And then just like the ferocious, like that, it could have been someone else, but I don't know. I felt Hayden Christensen through that performance. So,
I mean, it could also just be a case of like maybe in the next couple of episodes, he's, you know, the helmet gets taken off
or damaged,
or, you know, damaged, and then that's when he's in the suit, and then maybe he does those particular scenes with the lightsaber battles and. You know, maybe it is literally only a couple of scenes when he's in it, but again, I don't really care.
No, neither do I. And other people have also said, and I don't know whether this is accurate or not. So they are using a AI re-speecher to create James Earl Jones' voice, because James Earl Jones doesn't do a lot of voice acting anymore because he's 90. So it's unclear whether he voices, like whether none of the voice is original voice acting by James Earl Jones, or whether it's all just the re-speecher. Either way, unlike when they did it with Luke in Book of Boba Fett, it's completely unnoticeable that it's an AI, probably in part because it sounds a little bit techno anyways, because it's for a filter. But people have theorized maybe it's Hayden Christensen delivering the lines and then them using this re-speecher AI to redo his delivery as James Earl Jones. I don't know how this tech works, so I don't know whether that is how it works, but the idea being it's almost like deep faking a voice. So someone gives a delivery where they talk like this, and then the re-speecher does the same kind of da-da-da-da-da, but with someone else's voice. If that's how it works, and they are getting Hayden Christensen to do the delivery, and then they change it to James Earl Jones's voice, that's cool as well. You can make an argument that that's not Hayden Christensen at that point, but like that's still cool.
But I mean, if that is the case, then Hayden Christensen fucking nailed the deliveries, because it just sounds like James Earl Jones.
Well, again, it would be James Earl Jones's voice, but the style of delivery would be like how he says lines, like the...
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like the cadence of it is very much like James Earl Jones. Yeah. So he's like, if it is Hayden delivering the lines, and he's doing a very good job at like doing
Yeah.
James's cadence.
Or it's not that at all. But either way, I really don't care how much Hayden Christensen is in this suit, if I'm being honest. It's just cool to see my boy back. In whatever limitation that is. Also, Ewan McGregor explicitly said that he remembered the first time he saw Hayden Christensen in the suit was him walking down a street towards him, which would be the scene from episode 3 then. So he clearly is in the suit at least some of the time. My guess is basically anything from the chest up is Hayden Christensen. Anything full body is one of the stunt performers who's much taller than Hayden Christensen to fit the build more. And then maybe for some of the action scenes it's Hayden Christensen, and some of them it's this other guy. Maybe for full body shots but action shots it's this other guy. And then for close-ups it's Hayden Christensen, because we have also seen Hayden Christensen was training for this role. So, but like some people are like, it feels like Lucasfilm and Disney lied to us because they said he was coming back and he's barely in it, or barely visible as being in it. But also Vader has always been a mishmash of multiple different people creating this one performance. Like, I can't remember the name of the actor who played the body of Darth Vader, but it was someone else, and then James Earl Jones providing the voice, and then it was Sebastian Shaw who did the face at the end of Return of the Jedi. So like, that's 3 actors in the original trilogy portraying Vader.
I can't fucking remember his name, and he's a Bristolian. David something?
That sounds possibly right. I do remember hearing some behind the scenes of how he delivered his lines with just a normal British accent. That's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not fair to compare because there's no filter over it or anything. But
I wish we got Farmer Vader. That would have been brilliant.
Darth Vader original actor David Prowse.
Yeah. I can't believe I forgot his name.
But yeah, so like, you know, again, Vader being a combination of Hayden Christensen, these 2 other actors or performers, and then James Earl Jones's AI voice. I'm fine with that. That's whatever to me. At the end of the day, I'm looking at the screen and it's Vader, and it sounds like Vader and it feels like Vader, and so I don't care. But yeah.
You'd best not fail me again, my lover.
You were warned what defeat or failure would bring.
There's a fucking seat right here for you if you bring in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
All right. Anything more you want to add on Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Don't think so.
Young Leia continues to be great.
Yeah. I don't understand the hate on Reva.
No, neither do I. I mean, I don't know if we talked about that after the first 2 episodes, because the hate was after the first 2 episodes, but yeah, there is obviously, as per usual, a fucking contingent of Star Wars fans just being absolute scum of the universe. And even if you don't like her character, I mean, she's a fucking villain, so like, whatever. But even if you don't like her character, there's no excuse to behave like that. So,
I mean, everyone's just ragging on the show for bad acting in general, but I really don't see it.
No.
Like, maybe we're the dumb ones, but like, I really don't think so. Like, it's fine. Like, she's meant to be a villain. She acts how I would imagine a villain to be. And also, going back to her backstory, like, of what we know, which is barely anything, the stuff that she's mentioned, like having everything taken away from her, I actually did see a good theory there. I don't know if I want to quickly mention that.
Go for it.
I saw a theory that was saying that she, like, in the scene with all the younglings in the Clone Wars, she was one of them. Mm-hmm. And when she said to Leia, I once had a droid and other things, it was all taken away from me. The theory is that she basically didn't like being a Jedi because the Jedi took away all of her possessions and told her that, you know, she couldn't have attachments and stuff. And so she may be like
resentful of them.
Yeah.
Which would line up a little bit with Obi-Wan at one point talking about being taken away from his family and saying he wished he'd known his parents, and that whole bit about his brother, which was also about kind of the downside to being a Jedi is losing all of that. So, yeah, that could work. I do think there's another thing that's worth mentioning theory-wise, which is that they have been releasing character posters, which is the thing to do these days. They've been releasing character posters for all the various characters, and so Obi-Wan has Vader. So the poster design is the character's face with the twin suns, and one of the suns is the character's eye. So Vader is in that eye for Obi-Wan and for Leia. And I want to say for... I always forget how to pronounce his name. Kumail Nanjiani?
Oh, Kumail Nanjiani.
Kumail, thank you. I think his one's also Vader. Every single other character's is Obi-Wan's, because all the villains and whatever, except for Reva's as Vader. So depending how you look at that, that's one of two things. That's either the enemy of this person is the person in the sun, or the other theory is it might just be like the center of their attention. But
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting, especially if maybe like, I mean, it could just be that Vader was lying to her or something, or it could literally be maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi was the one that discovered her as a youngling and took her to the temple, and she just blames him for basically starting her on that journey.
Or it could be some like warped, fucked up thing where she knows the whole thing, she knows the whole situation, and just goes, well, Anakin fell to the dark side, I did too. Obi-Wan didn't stop Anakin from falling to the dark side, and I only fell to the dark side because the Empire rose to power. It's all Obi-Wan's fault, which is like warped and fucked up, but like could be. Yeah, is good.
Do we want to do Stranger Things?
We can, or we can leave it till next week. There's no real rush. We're already like 2 weeks late to it. Could even wait till everything's out and then just do it all in one big go. Because there's 2 more episodes coming.
I mean, we could just do one big roll for insight on it.
Fuck
I know
it.
we say this about most big things, but like, I feel like Stranger Things would be a good one to do.
There's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about with it, so fuck it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We'll roll for insight. Stranger Things 4 coming when they finish Stranger Things 4.
Yeah.
Which is like in 3 weeks or something.
Something
Real
like
quick
that.
though.
Oh, very good. I love it. It might be my favorite season.
Fair. I know if for a fact it's not my favorite season. 1 still takes it, although that could change with the final 2 episodes. But I think 4 has the higher highs than 1, but it also has lower lows than 1. So, and to be clear, I think that 4 is trying to appeal to fans of season 1, season 2, and season 3, where they tried different things in each of those seasons, and some of those things people like. I think most people don't love season 3 as much as season 1 and season 2, but you can absolutely guarantee there are some people who season 3 is their favorite season, and there is stuff that you.
It was up until 4.
Fair enough, and so there is stuff that is very season 3-esque in season 4, because there are people who like that stuff, and none of that is bad, but it definitely sometimes goes, I don't care as much about this stuff as I do about other stuff. But episode 4 is my favorite episode of Stranger Things ever.
Dear Billy?
Dear Billy. Just from top to bottom is just an amazing piece of film making. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see the next couple of movies. Is it going to be very long?
Yeah, it's like an hour and 45 minutes and 2.5 hours, I think, of the last 2 episodes that are coming out. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You can intro this category this time, or this section.
Consumed in the media week that we have. Should I go first? Yeah. I have
I had a mouthful of
started.
Coke, so-
Yeah. I have started watching Rebels. Star Wars Rebels. 10 episodes in. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I can't believe I haven't watched it sooner. Honestly, like, I love the characters' dynamics to each other. I think one of the reasons that I put off watching Rebels was because I kind of saw the characters and I knew a little bit like about what happens to them and everything. I mean, it's been out for so long now that even if I wanted to avoid spoilers, which I don't usually, it just wouldn't have happened for me. So I do know some stuff.
But I guarantee you don't know everything. I'd be
exactly.
very surprised if you know everything that happens in this show, because there's some crazy stuff that happens on this show.
Yeah, like I've seen clips of it and stuff, but like it's a point of I don't know how it got up to that point, and I don't also know like how it goes on moving forward, or it's stuff like that. So yeah, I know little bits and pieces of it, but not everything. But one of the reasons I put it off was because of the way I already perceived the characters without even really knowing their personalities or anything. I kind of just made up these assumptions about them, and I don't even know why, really.
I think Rebels at a glance it's very kiddie, and the first couple of episodes are very kiddie as well. I mean, most of season 1's pretty kiddie, but like everything's got these like soft edges. It's clean. The lightsabers are super thin, which is not kiddie particularly, but it's like weird to look at first if you don't get behind the visual style. And then you have these characters who are, there's like the Mandalorian, but she's super colorful with dyed hair and she spray paints, and some people might be like, that's not a fucking Mandalorian. Mandalorian's supposed to be angry and stern, and she's not anything like that. And so like you might be like, oh, it's just appealing to kids, in it, but like it's much deeper than that. So but the weird thing is I kind of thought it was going to be the opposite. Oh really?
Yeah, because before I'd seen the show, obviously I've seen Maul versus Kenobi. Like I went on a massive Maul binge like a couple of years ago now, and when I was looking into Maul, I noticed that was something that happened in his history, and so I watched it.
The best
at that point,
lightsaber fight in Star Wars.
I will maybe readjust my opinion once I see what leads up to that fight. But as it stands, my favorite is still Maul versus Ahsoka.
It's also a very good fight. I can't really argue with that if that's your opinion, but I just love Maul versus Kenobi. It's so good.
Yeah. But yeah, and so I'd seen Maul versus Kenobi. I'd seen Ahsoka versus Vader, and the one thing that really stood out to me the most from it was the Luminara scene, because that is just fucking horrifying. First time I saw that, I was like, this is for kids? Like, I don't think so.
Side note, just quickly flicking back to Obi-Wan Kenobi, similar sort of scene to the Luminara thing in that as well, which was fucking dope. We're no longer in that category, so I don't want to go into full spoilers because someone skipped ahead, but yeah, there was a cool little moment similar to that. I was like, oh shit. So
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I kind of just thought, oh, it's just quite a serious show. Okay. And like I just kind of expected the characters to not have like much personality, and I kind of assumed that with the Mandalorian and Kanan, for example, I kind of assumed that Ezra would just kind of be like the generic sort of Luke slash like early Anakin, like very young Anakin, without much personality, just kind of generic, and I was just completely wrong.
Yeah,
like every character has their own unique personality, and it's so well fleshed out, and you can see their bonds increasing and everything. Like none of the cast or the crew of the Ghost is boring. Like And that was one of the things I was worried about.
Even Hera, who I think is possibly the easiest to assume should be boring because like the role you very early get established first. She's the pilot. She's kind of the mum of the group. She just oozes with this richness and this personality and this like, yeah, just fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't fault it so far. Like every episode has just been really fun. Like Samu said to me, like when I was just a few episodes in, that the filler episodes are not even, or like the filler episodes are kind of better than the ones in Clone Wars. Like even they are important. I mean, I am the type of person that never dislikes filler episodes because I don't class them. I don't think filler episodes exist. I think they are made up by people that have a very short attention span and don't actually like a decent story. Because as an anime watcher especially, you get this a lot. You get loads of people saying that, oh, we should just cut out the filler episodes and like, what was the point of this and everything? So like, for example, in My Hero Academia, the show is about kids learning to become heroes and having loads of obstacles thrown at them along the way. If you just had every single episode being them like attacked by villains and stuff, and there is absolutely no downtime to actually kind of get to understand the characters and the rest of the world and why they're actually becoming heroes, what's the point? It is like you might as well just play a video game at that point where you're just hacking and slashing, because that's all you really want.
I will devil's advocate and say I do think there are such things as filler episodes, but I think that some people call things filler episodes when they're not, in the sense that a filler episode to me is when nothing narrative happens, nothing plot happens, and nothing character arc happens. Those do exist where it's just stagnant, but a lot of people just think that if the plot isn't moving forward, that's the same thing. But if character growth is happening, then that's worthwhile. So,
I mean, maybe they do exist. I've yet to come across a show where I've considered anything really a filler episode. But I mean, maybe that's just because I'm very selective and I'm fortunate enough not to have come across that. But I mean,
or you can just enjoy what you're watching, which is totally fine as well. Because like ultimately, the other thing is that if the filler episode is enjoyable, like the cliche example of a filler episode is animes having the beach episode. And like I haven't watched a lot of anime, but and it's not technically an anime, but I have seen Avatar's beach episode because I've seen all of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I genuinely can't remember if anything plot, narrative, or character happens really in that episode. I do remember it's a fucking fun episode though. So even if none of the rest of it is happening, still enjoyed what I was watching. So who gives a shit? So,
I mean, when I was talking about My Hero Academia, the one episode I had in mind actually was a beach episode, and that one I know got quite a lot of hate because it was literally just a couple of the heroes doing a mission that didn't really matter, and then at the end, like in the beginning and the end, it's the girls like on the beach just having a good time, and people had such a massive problem with that, but. The thing is, with that episode, what people failed to realize or just wanted to ignore is they're having a good time. That's what normal life is like, that's kind of what you want, to be able to enjoy yourself. They have to go and fight some villains, then they come back and have a good time. What that is telling you, but what that is telling you is that they are fighting for that life. Like the whole reason for them becoming heroes is so that not only them, but regular people can have a peaceful life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message they're trying to get across, and people just didn't want to hear that. And it's so frustrating to me because I feel like it honestly makes me feel sad for these people because they're missing out on like the whole meaning of the show, basically.
I also think, going back to Rebels, though, one of the things that Rebels has an advantage over Clone Wars is that some of the filler episodes of Clone Wars are because of its anthology style format, there are entire episodes that don't feature the main quadruple of Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex. And so when you've got a 2-episode arc of R2-D2 and C-3PO getting lost and hanging out with a bunch of different aliens and different planets, it ultimately doesn't matter to the overall story of Star Wars. It doesn't matter to any of the other characters specifically, like Ahsoka is not growing from C-3PO and R2-D2 being missing. And we don't need to see that growth with R2-D2 and C-3PO, so you could call those 2 filler episodes if you wanted to. And I would personally say that those are filler episodes. The advantage that Rebels has over that is by the style of it not being an anthology-style show, all of the episodes always feature the cast of the Ghosts. So it's always that main group of characters. So even if it's one that doesn't directly move the narrative forward, you're still having character moments. So I don't know if have you gotten to the Mayloon fruit episode yet?
Yeah.
Right. That's the one I distinctly remember disliking in Rebel Season 1, to the point that I almost like it because of how stupid it is. Because they're just committing domestic terrorism over a piece of fruit.
I loved it. Honestly, like I thoroughly enjoyed that episode.
And I do think, even though it is kind of funny, I do think it does clash a little bit with the overall themes of the show, which is that these characters are rebels. They're supposed to be heroes fighting the Empire, but they are putting people's lives at risk over a piece of fruit. I do think, and obviously the show's aimed at kids, and kids are not going to make that connection necessarily, but I do think as an adult viewer, I was like, maybe have the thing that they're going after, if they're going to be putting civilians' lives at risk, be something more important, like medicine, for instance, rather than fruit. But even ignoring all of that, obviously what you do get from that episode is Zeb and Ezra growing closer as almost brothers, because they're acting like a big brother and a little brother scrapping over doing a chore for their mum. That's basically the whole vibe of the episode. So even ignoring all of that, you've still got those two growing their relationship during the episode. So it's worthwhile.
I mean, I think the point of that episode was that if they kept going the way they were going, by being at each other's throats and worrying more about that than whatever it is else they're meant to be doing, it does put people in danger. And so by them going out and going on that experience, putting people in danger, then coming through it at the other end, not having, all that shit, just, locking heads constantly, that's the growth.
Fair. I guess it depends how you view it then. Because, I hadn't thought of it like that they are learning from that experience. Because I don't think, if memory serves, I don't think the episode really caps off with them having learned from it, other than them to stop arguing. But it could also be them learning you shouldn't frivolously put people's lives at risk. But
I really enjoy Rebels. I think it's like, honestly, I really don't understand why I didn't watch it sooner. I feel like I just had all these like misconceptions about it that would have been remedied if I'd literally have just stuck the first episode on and just gave it a go.
The interesting thing is, I think that I also put it off for a long time because it didn't particularly like what I visually saw. I didn't love the visual style, and I'd heard it was more kid friendly or like more kid orientated. But I watched it after I finished binging all of Clone Wars, and I wasn't in love with it, as it sounds like you are 10 episodes in. I definitely was by the end of season 1. So even me, when I recommend it to people, I'm like, hey, even if you don't love the first couple of episodes, it's like the BoJack Horseman thing. Stick with it, you'll end up loving it. And so the fact that you're already this into it means that I think you are going to be floored by the end of the show, because it continues to just get better and better and better. And like some of the stuff they do with Star Wars is just so good.
I really hope so. And I think another thing that was putting me off was getting to know like a whole new group of characters, because with Clone Wars, obviously, it's following characters you already know, and obviously it introduces new characters, but it is within that show, and it's like if you're watching that show, like it's just part of the course. But jumping into a new show, especially with like important sort of like things like Jedi and Mandalorians being a part of the crew, I almost felt like I didn't want to like them because it takes away from the other characters I know. You know?
Yeah, I think as well, and I don't know whether you were into Clone Wars when it was first airing, particularly. I remember I watched it for a little bit and then fell off it, and then I came back to it only a couple of years ago and was like, oh, why did I sleep on this for so long? But
I saw like a few episodes here and there. It wasn't like I definitely didn't watch it like religiously, like episode to episode. It was more of just like, oh, what's on TV? Yeah. Oh, Star Wars, cool. I'll just watch this.
But I think some people also disliked Rebels because Rebels came about, from my understanding at least, Rebels came about because Disney bought Lucasfilm, and when they did the whole Legends versus Canon thing, they stopped every single thing that was in production, including Clone Wars. So Clone Wars got cancelled because Disney took over Lucasfilm. I might be wrong about that. That's my understanding of it from years ago. And so then they were like, well, we don't want to not use this studio, though, this talented team of people, make us a new show and make it like kid-friendly for Disney XD. And so they made this new show, and then slowly they got to bring in more Clone Wars elements and kind of make it so Clone Wars was inherently connected. And I think there was this time where Clone Wars, it wasn't certain whether it was non-canon or canon now, and now it's firmly in canon. But yeah, I think there might have been some resentment from that as well, where people were like, well, this might be good, but the only reason why this exists right now is because Clone Wars doesn't. But that might be completely wrong. Do you know the link between, because you have you finished Bad Batch now?
Yes.
Cool.
That's another thing I should probably have said last week, but yeah, I have finished Bad Batch as well.
What do you think of the ending of Bad Batch?
Just great. It was just really good. It was just like the rest of the season, really. It was just pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm still saddened by the ending, but I'm hopeful for the second season.
But did you know that the Jedi they're hunting and then they let go at the beginning of Bad Batch Season 1 is Kanan? That's not a big reveal.
No fucking way.
You'll get it confirmed later on, but it's not a massive reveal. I'm just telling you that now. Don't research any more than that. Just know it's the same person. And that's just a cool little link.
Shit. I mean, I had my suspicions about Kanan. I kind of assumed that, like, just from the timeline of it all, he would have been a kid when Order 66 went ahead. So
yeah,
I kind of
Rebels takes place season 1 I believe is 4 BBY, maybe 5 BBY, so either 5 or 4 years before A New Hope, and then I think it ends 3 BBY, so 3 years before A New Hope. So yeah, he would have aged about 15 to 16 years from Order 66.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling that because obviously Order 66 went ahead and like he was still a kid at the time, I feel like he's maybe not a real like Jedi Knight or hasn't been given that title yet, and so that's probably why he isn't a great teacher, or at least, you know, so he thinks in the beginning, because he never really finished his training either.
Yeah. I forgot that was part of the story arc in season 1, so I a little bit spoiled you on that, sorry.
Well, I mean...
But yeah, you're bang on it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's alright, it gets confirmed before the end of season 1, that's what's going on in his head, but I don't remember when, sorry.
and also, like, since I've been watching it, I've been really trying to place the characters and the timelines and everything, and I just keep getting confused between Ahsoka and Omega, because I know that Hera Syndulla was helped by one of them.
Yes.
But I cannot remember which one it was.
Omega and Bad Batch.
Yeah. I thought that was the case, and now that I know that Kanan had that experience with the clones and like the Bad Batch at the time.
I hadn't even thought about that link, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
So they both have met the Bad Batch.
Who
and they
knows?
probably have-
Maybe Bad Batch will reveal in a couple of seasons' time that's how those two met, was through the Bad Batch.
I mean, that would be fucking crazy.
Because I don't think it's actually told us explicitly how they meet in Rebels ever. It's just they did, and yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear what you think down the line then, because yeah, as I say, it just gets better and better and better. And along with season 7 of Clone Wars, the kind of final couple of episodes of Rebels are some of the best Star Wars ever. So, without hyping up too much.
I am very excited to see more of Maul and the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
I'm pretty fucking hyped for that. I also hear that Gar Saxon is in it as well. Pretty cool to see him back.
Yep.
Giving me the inspiration for my helmet.
I don't think he wears that helmet in Rebels, but he is back.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
it's such a dope helmet.
At that point, they don't really wear Mandalorian armor anymore.
Oh.
So, but yeah, no, it's a good time.
I gotta say, watching Sabine though, I'm like, ooh, what cool things can I add to my armor?
One of my favorite things, this is like a really, really minor spoiler, you find out that her Beskar is like her great grandparents handed down to like through the family to eventually get to her. And it's like, so obviously like they smelt it down and reforged it to fit the new wearer. But I'm like, and then you're just covering it in spray paint. You're just graffitiing your ancestral armor. But yeah, she's an artist. It's fine.
Yeah, I really do like Sabine actually.
Who's your favorite character? Would you say?
Zeb.
Fair.
I love Zeb. I think he's very interesting.
Zeb has 2 of my favorite episodes in Rebels are centric to him as well. So that's you can look forward to those as well.
Yeah. I was going to say something else about Sabine. Oh, that was another thing. Is I think because obviously I've watched The Mandalorian and I love Din. I really want him to basically become the Mandalore, and obviously when all that type of stuff started going down and the Darksaber was introduced and everything, I heard rumblings that maybe Sabine might become more of a main character and take over, and I was like, I don't want this outsider character. I want Din. And like now I'm watching it, I'm like, obviously I don't dislike the character, but before I kind of did, because I was like, she's gonna steal my Din's thunder, you know.
All I'm gonna say is they could take it that way, but I feel like the way that they're signaling is that it's Din, not her. That's all I'm gonna say.
Like, I really like Sabine, but I still want Din to sort of become the big boy.
I think that's the way it's going to go. Cool.
This is the way.
Anything else you've been consuming?
The Boys, season 3. Again, it's just fucking brilliant. I love it.
It might be my favorite season so far.
Yeah, it had a very strong opening. There have been a couple of times where I've just felt genuinely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Alex was like, there's one bit in episode 3 that you're gonna be that I was really uncomfortable with, and I wanted to see if you can guess it. And I was like, nope, can't guess it. And after he told me what it was, I was like, oh well, I saw someone do that for real in a film rather than with a CGI thing. So
yeah, I haven't seen that, so like seeing that and like hearing the deep say stuff, it was a bit traumatizing.
You should watch Old Boy. The South Korean version, not the American version.
Is that the one with Willem Dafoe? Is he the one that ate it? I feel like it was someone
No,
like...
in the American version, it's Josh Brolin as the main character.
Josh Brolin, yeah, that's...
But the South Korean version is better in literally every single way. So, other than you have to read subtitles if you're opposed to that.
But yeah, other than The Boys and Rebels and Bad Batch, and Stranger Things, of course. Don't think there's anything else.
Fair enough. Yeah, I watched The Boys as well. Really, really enjoying it so far. Nothing really to add to that other than it's a good old time. And I also watched The Boys Diabolical for the first time. I don't know why I'd put it off, but I just like boshed through that in the last 24 hours. It's a lot of fun. My favorite episode was probably just the Justin Roiland one, just because it was fucking stupid. But
yeah.
But no, there were some really good ones in there. I like the one that was like set in the comic book universe as well. And God, who did they get? I can't remember his name now. It's actually the actor of the Grand Inquisitor, Jason Isaacs, I think. Is that his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
He played Butcher in that episode along with Simon Pegg playing Huey, and that was really cool. I was like, I love the fact that we've got a live action The Boys, and I think Carl Urban does a great job, and I think
Jack Quaid,
thank you, does a great job as Huey. But if we had instead got a fully animated series of it instead, featuring Jason Isaacs and Simon Pegg, I'd have been totally fine with that as well, because yeah, they just both. I mean, obviously Huey is based on Simon Pegg anyways in the comics,
yeah,
but which is why Simon Pegg plays his dad. But yeah, it felt just really natural and fun. But I also what else have I done? So I forgot to mention on the last podcast, before we came and saw you 2 weekends ago now, we all went to the cinema, me, Tommy, and Callum, and we saw a film called Men, in all caps. Because we wanted to go see Everything Everywhere All at Once, but it was no longer in cinemas. Apparently it's on streaming now, so I might watch it on streaming.
Definitely would recommend.
Yeah. But so instead we went and saw Men. You should go see Men.
You recommend it, do you?
I recommend Men. I don't know how much do you want me to reveal of why you should go see it. You shouldn't go see it with your mum. That's a bit of free advice I'll give you.
I guess just give me an overview of what the film is like actually about, because I literally know nothing about it.
A woman goes on a retreat to the English countryside to get away from some trauma.
I know what this movie is. It just took so long for it to click in my head, but it's the one with like the same guy playing all of the different guys, right?
Oh, you already know that then, do you? Yes, he does play.
Yeah.
Is that in the trailer? Because I don't remember that being in the trailer I saw, but maybe it's in a more recent trailer or something.
Yeah, it literally just shows you like all of them.
Fair enough. It's actually really well done in the film, because you kind of notice it. Maybe the third guy you see who's played by the same actor, but like it's not instant. It's not the first time you see someone else who's played by the same guy, which is quite impressive. Really,
it wasn't for me. It like I only noticed because I went to the cinema like twice in a couple of weeks, and the trailer showed both times, and the second time viewing it, I was like, fuck, that's the same guy.
it's a very Andy Bradley Baker playing the Bad Batch sort of situation. Yeah, I didn't actually pay attention in the credits whether he's just listed once or whether he's listed for all the times he's playing different characters. But yeah, it's a horror thriller, but it's not like other horror. You said you don't like a lot of horror and thriller because they're very samey. This is not samey. So, do you want my initial review to my buddy who works at the cinema, or my second review, which is the less revealing of the two?
Give me the first.
So he happened to not be working that day, and instead happened to be on a date seeing the film, and he happened to have the seat right next to me, which is really, really funny. Every single time I go to the cinema, he's like the guy working the box office, so we always have like a quick catch up. But this time he was actually not on the box office, but instead had the seat next to me booked, which was really weird. And then the film ended, and I just turned around to him and just went, What the fuck sort of film are you showing at this establishment? Do you want a second review?
Good. Yeah.
We're just normal men. We're just innocent men. That's my second review. No, it's really, really good, but definitely don't watch it with parents. Just have fun and enjoy it.
Okay. I'll probably wait for it to come out in streaming anyway.
Fair enough. That's about it. Been playing some more SWTOR, but we talk about that every now and again, so I'm not going to bother. Yeah, that's about it. All right.
Trying to do my best De Niro, but I don't think it looks very good.
You talking to me? You must be talking to me. There ain't nobody here.
You sound more like Steven Seagal.
When you're watching the podcast, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below. Share it with your mother, especially if she's a De Niro fan.
Or Russian Mongol.
I feel like this is coming more Marlon Brando now. You come to me on this day. This day, the day of my daughter's wedding day.
Oh, you got me a birthday gift on my birthday for my birthday? A birthday gift on my birthday?
Alright, have a good week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.